Watatu ni Mheshimiwa ni Bwana David Daud Mwaijojele kutoka chama cha CCK. Wanne ni Bwana Georges Gabriel Busungu kutoka chama cha ADA Tadea. Watano ni Bwana Kunje Ngombale Mwiru kutoka chama cha SAU. Wa sita ni Bib Maimuna Said Kasim kutoka chama cha ADC. Wa saba ni Bwana Ndonge Said Ndonge kutoka chama cha AAFP. Wa nane ni Bwana Saidun Abdurrahman Hatib kutoka chama cha DP. Na wa tisa ni Mheshimiwa Dr. Tulia Ackson kutoka
lakini hata kama haperform lakini ni dear to the boss, Opras inatoka inakuwa nzuri. Lakini hata baada ya kujazwa ile mafomu sijui yanapelekwa wapi na sijui feedback inatoka kwa nani urudi kusema kwamba huyu alikuwa mzuri, huyu alikuwa mbaya. Utumishi mwende mkayasimamie na mbadilishe.
Naomba nimalizie Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti. Wa tisa ni Mheshimiwa Dr. Tulia Ackson kutoka Chama cha Mapinduzi.
Tuko wabudu sana. Unaanzisha hizo mambo lakini
Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, naomba kwa taarifu kuwa wagombea hawa wote wamekidhi masharti ya Katiba ya Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania na kanuni za kudumu za Bunge toleo la Juni 2020. Sasa naomba kuainisha kwa kifupi utaratibu utakaotumika kwenye zoezi la uchaguzi wa Spika.
Niseme kwamba
kwa utaratibu uliowekwa na Bunge hili, kila mgombea atatakiwa kufika mbele ya wabunge ili kujieleza,
Muungano wa Tanzania ni moja tu
na kujibu maswali kama yatakuwepo pamoja na kuomba
na wananchi wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Ni sisi tuliokamilika.
Kila mbunge atapewa karatasi ya kura
kama ni kuibomoa hiyo nchi
majina ya wagombea husika na atatakiwa
kuijenga ikapata sifa hiyo nchi tutajenga sisi.
Mgombea mmoja tu kwa kuweka alama ya vema pembeni ya jina lake na kutumbukiza katika karatasi ya kura
hiyo nchi.
Kwa mujibu wa kanuni ya 9 kifungu cha 9(1) cha nyongeza ya kwanza ya kanuni, mgombea atakuwa amechaguliwa kuwa Spika iwapo atapata zaidi ya nusu ya kura za wabunge wote.
Serikali yetu, katiba yetu imekubali ziwepo, sheria na miongozo yetu imekubali ziwepo,
katika uchaguzi huu
na tukachaguliwa tukawa ndio tunaongoza hizo taasisi.
Ibara 68 ya katiba inaruhusu
ndani ya mabega yetu na vichwa vyetu tumebeba hiyo nchi
kushiriki kwenye Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania
na watu wake.
Kwa msingi huo, Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti,
kwa hiyo chochote kinachokwenda vibaya
mwetu leo
kinachokwenda vizuri,
tuna mbunge mpya wa jimbo la Ngorongoro.
Sasa kama mtu unafanya kwa kujitizama wewe zaidi
bado hajaapishwa,
wajibu wako,
lakini kwa kufuata masharti ya ibara hiyo
uliopewa na katiba yako na sheria zako na Mungu wako.
Baada ya maelezo haya, Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti,
unafanya vyema.
Naomba sasa
nadhani kila mmoja kati yetu akajipima mwenyewe.
Lakini hata hivyo
anafanya vipi?
Kwa kuwa wagombea 8 wa nafasi ya Spika sio wabunge,
kile kiapo tunacho,
naomba uridhie kanuni zitenguliwe ili muda utakapofika
kile cha kutumikia nchi
ndani ya ukumbi wa Bunge,
na kama nakumbuka vizuri
zoezi la kujieleza na
kuna vipengele wengine wameapa viwili wengine vitatu, inategemea majukumu yako. Lakini nadhani paragrafu ya pili unasema utaitumikia kwa moyo thabiti Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania
na wabunge
yanayofuata,
kama alivyosema Mheshimiwa
na yanayofuata
Bunge.
Sasa
na kwa kuwa kutakuwa na wagombea ambao
kama huna dini, kiapo ni kiapo.
Nitamuita
wenye dini waliapa kwa vitabu vya dini zao, na sikuona mtu ambaye hapa ana dini pale.
Ili aweze
wote tuliapa kwa dini zetu,
kanuni za Bunge.
Sasa kama unakwenda kinyume na kiapo ulichokiapa kwa dini yako, nenda kajitathmini mwenyewe.
Itabidi waingie humu ndani.
Hakuna atakayeweza kupasua mioyo yenu akaingia vifuani mwenu akajua huyu anafikiria nini, huyu mkweli, huyu sio mkweli, huyu nini. Kila mtu anajua mwenyewe, lakini ujue kwamba umebeba Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, umebeba jukumu zito, umebeba wananchi wote wanaotaka kwenda kuhudumiwa.
Naomba niwahoji wabunge ambao wanaafiki hoja.
Lakini la pili, ndugu zangu, ni taasisi ya urais. Urais ni taasisi na sio mtu.
Nani atoe hoja?
mtu inakuwa tu tukifuata katiba yetu na mambo mengine, kati yetu mmoja lazima awe rais, akae pale kuangalia mambo yanavyo. Lakini urais ni taasisi ambayo inakuja na mamlaka yake, inakuja inatoa miongozo.
Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti,
inatoa nini?
Kwa kuwa ibara ya 84 ibara ndogo ya kwanza ya Katiba ya Jamhuri ya Muungano
anafanyia kazi
ya Tanzania ya mwaka 1977 inaweka masharti kwamba Spika atachaguliwa na wabunge kutoka miongoni mwa watu ambao ni wabunge au mtu mwenye sifa za kuwa
tunaambiwa kwamba mamlaka na uongozi wote unatoka kwa Mungu.
Hiki Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, kinakusudia kumchagua Spika kwa mujibu wa kanuni ya 9 ibara ndogo ya kwanza ya kanuni za bunge za kudumu toleo la Juni 2020, na kwa kuwa bunge hili limejiwekea utaratibu wa kuwaruhusu wagombea wa nafasi ya spika kuingia ndani ya ukumbi wa bunge kwa ajili ya kujitambulisha kwa wapiga kura, yani wabunge, kujieleza na kuomba kura. Na kwa kuwa kanuni ya 160 ya kanuni za kudumu za bunge inaweka utaratibu maalum kwa wabunge, watumishi na wageni kukaa kwenye ukumbi wa bunge, hivyo basi kwa mujibu wa kanuni ya 174 kifungu kidogo cha kwanza, naomba kutoa hoja ya kutengua kanuni ya 160 ya kanuni za kudumu za bunge ili kuwaruhusu wagombea wa nafasi ya uspika ambao sio wabunge kuingia kwenye ukumbi wa bunge kushiriki uchaguzi wa spika wa bunge. Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, wagombea hao ni kama ifuatavyo. Wa kwanza ni Bwana Abdullah Mohamed Said NRA. Wa pili ni Engineer Ivan Jackson Maganza kutoka chama cha TLP. Wa tatu ni Bwana David Daud Mwaigyojele kutoka chama cha CCK. Wa nne ni Georges Gabriel Busungu Ada Tadea. Wa tano ni Bwana Kunje Ngombale Mwiru kutoka chama cha SAU. Wa sita ni Bi Maimuna Said Kasim kutoka chama cha ADC.
Kwa hiyo
wa saba ni Bwana Ndonge Said Ndonge
eneo la pili ni kuingia kwenye
na wanane ni Bwana Saidon Abrahaman Hatib kutoka DP. Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti, naomba kutoa hoja
tena kwenye live session ambapo tutakuwa na michango, alafu tutakuwa na concluding.
Naomba ni wahoji wale ambao wanaafiki hoja iliyotolewa na Balozi Dr. Pindi Chana waseme ndio. Wale ambao wote mmesema ndio. Haya, na wale ambao wanafikiri uchaguzi uahirishwe labda, wanaosema sio, haya wote wameafiki. Maelezo haya sasa tunaingia kwenye
of the Indian Ocean to the peaks of Mount Kenya,
tuliomo humu ndani tumezoea sana, maana tumezoea kuchaguliwa. Kwa hiyo ningeomba tukubaliane mambo machache ya msingi. Hawa watu ni wengi,
right across the country, over 14 million voters will decide.
Lakini
tonight,
kanuni imeshachaguliwa, wataingia hapa ndani,
Peter Kenneth,
maelezo ya kila mmoja yachukue dakika ngapi? Kwa kawaida humu ndani huwa tunachukua dakika 3. Sijui kama mnaafiki waendelee kujieleza kwa dakika 3.
Mudavadi and Raila Odinga interview for the country's top job in Kenya's first ever presidential debate.
Lakini pili,
who will emerge the first president of the second
kuna utamaduni wa kuuliza maswali.
Welcome to the Kenya presidential debate 2013. Your hosts, Linus Kaikai and Julie Gishuru.
Kwa hiyo kila mmoja ataulizwa maswali matatu kama yapo.
Good evening. Welcome to the first of two presidential debates intended to give you a comprehensive picture of the candidates, their outlook on the issues, their policies, and their commitments on the matters that are of greatest concern to this nation. This debate has been organized by the Kenyan media and is coming to you live on all participating television and radio stations across the country. It is also streaming live online for the global audience.
The next 2 hours are unprecedented in the history of Kenyan elections. For the first time ever, presidential candidates have together agreed to submit themselves to a debate on relevant issues and pertinent national issues. 8 of the presidential candidates are here tonight to debate each other before an audience. The audience will maintain silence throughout the debate, except a few moments from now when we put our hands together to welcome the 2013 presidential candidates one by one.
Well, earlier, the Kenya Presidential Debates Steering Committee conducted a balloting session with the candidates to determine their order of entrance tonight and the podium position for each candidate. It's time now to welcome the presidential candidates, and tonight we begin with Mohamed Abduba Dida from the Alliance for Real Change Party. Let's give him a round of applause. We will ask you to take the front of the stage for the moment. Please do come forward.
Stand in front of the
right
podium.
there. Thank you so much.
Next to your podium. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we welcome the second candidate tonight in order of balloting again, and that is Professor James Olekiapi of the Rebuild and Restore Kenya Party.
Bwana Abdullah Mohamed Said kutoka chama cha NRA umeteuliwa na tume ya uchaguzi kuja kugombea nafasi ya Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania.
Next we have Uhuru Kenyatta from TNA, which is part of the Jubilee Alliance.
Na hawa,
let's give him a round of applause.
Ndio wapiga kura. Kwa hiyo utapata fursa ya kujieleza dakika 3, maelezo yako na kuomba kura. Lakini tumekubaliana umndani utaweza kuulizwa maswali matatu kama yako.
And next on stage tonight we do have the presidential candidate of the Kenya National Congress, and that is the Honorable Peter.
Naomba mgombea wa Chama cha Mapinduzi Dr. Tulia nikuombe ili na wengine waridhike. Naomba tu kwamba wanapojieleza hawa wote ukae nje, lakini baada ya maelezo utarudi ndani.
Also with us tonight we have Musalia Mudavadi from UDF, part of the Amani Alliance. Let's give him a round of applause as well.
And now let's welcome to the stage the only female presidential candidate in this race, Martha Karua of the NARC Kenya Party.
Haya wajumbe, tusikilize kidogo. Tusikilize kidogo. Maana hata sisi tunachaguana hivi. Na nyie leo mmekuwa wajumbe. Wagombea ndo hawa hapa. Haya, Mheshimiwa Bwana Abdullah Mohamed Said. Karibu.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti.
Also with us tonight, Raila Odinga of ODM, part of the CORD Alliance.
Salamu za Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bwana Yesu asifiwe. Mwenyekiti, kwanza napenda kumshukuru Mwenyezi Mungu Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, muumba na muweza wa kila jambo, Hakikaenda mfanyaji wa kila kitu na nafsi zetu ziko kwenye mkono wake. Kwa kunijalia leo kuzungumza mbele yenu waheshimiwa Bunge, hii uwezo Mwenyezi Mungu wala si uwezo wa yoyote.
Coming in tonight, the Honorable Paul Mwite of the Safina Party.
Nashukuru viongozi wangu walioniwezesha pia leo kuwepo hapa, lakini pia nimshukuru sana mke wangu nipende kumshukuru pia mke wangu.
Welcome to you all, a list of 8 presidential candidates taking part in this debate tonight. And the debate will focus on broad thematic areas of governance, security, and social services. Each candidate will be expected to explain their position in 2 minutes and will be given additional time for rebuttals. The rules of engagement discussed and agreed by each candidate requires them to treat and address each other with respect.
Now, this debate has 2 main segments. Part 1, which is focused on governance, and Part 2, which includes questions from the audience. We thank you all for joining us and making time for this debate tonight. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, let us all be upstanding for the national anthem. It is performed tonight by Carol Atemi.
Kwa jina naitwa Abdalla Mohamed Saidi, mzaliwa wa katika jimbo la Uchaguzi la Ziwani, Chake Chake Pemba. Katika uchaguzi wa mwaka 2020 nilikuwa pia mgombea wa Bunge katika jimbo hilo na nilipata kura nyingi. Dakika hazitoshi, kama ningeulizwa ningesema nahitaji dakika angalau 20. Lakini sisi tunataka heshima katika bunge letu liwe ni bunge bora Afrika. Hili litawezekana mkinichagua mimi. Jukumu langu nikiwa ni spika, nitawaongoza wabunge kwa ufanisi na kuwawezesha kutekeleza majukumu yao kikamilifu. Namna ya kueleza, namna ya kuongoza na kutekeleza na kuwawezesha nitaweza. Mkiniuliza swali nitakuja kufafanua. Tunahitaji kumunga mkono na kumsaidia Mheshimiwa Rais kutekeleza majukumu yake. Unajua ni tabia sio nzuri sisi kama wasimamizi wa maendeleo na serikali, sisi wenyewe kwanza tukaanza kugombana jinsi gani tunajenga nchi yetu. Hii nchi ni lazima tusimame kutetea nchi yetu katika hali yoyote. Tusimpe nafasi yoyote ya kutuhujumu katika nchi yetu. Kwa hiyo kila jambo lazima sisi wabunge, nyinyi wabunge na watendaji tuwe karibu na rais kwa ajili ya kumsaidia na sio kumkwaza au kumkatisha tamaa. Mheshimiwa, dakika ni chache, lakini mimi naamini na nimekuja hapa sio kuja kushiriki. Mimi nimekuja kushinda.
At this point, I hand over to Linus Kaikai to take us through part 1 of this crucial debate.
Lakini naamini watu waliomuelewa.
Thank you once again, candidates, and welcome again to this debate. The first part is about self-introduction. We're not going into policies. We're just going into self-introduction. And this is your moment to do what you don't get to do in rallies. Tell us about yourself. 30 seconds. Who are you? And what is your strength? And in order of the ballot again, we will start with the candidate for the Alliance for Real Change, Mr. Dubadida.
Thank you so much.
Ndugu Abdullah Mohamed Saidi amemaliza kujieleza.
And I usually like using the title
Mheshimiwa yoyote anataka kuuliza swali,
because I'm professionally trained and it is a noble profession, so I'm proud of it. Agnesi, I'm vying for the presidency, as you very well know, and my political party that nominated me is Alliance for Real Change, abbreviated ARK. most of the media and many people mistake it for ARC,
kwa maelezo ya mheshimiwa mgombea,
but the K
nimemsikia akisema kwamba
is as per it appears.
au power ya
Thank you, Mr. Leader. That is, you have only 30 seconds to introduce yourself. Let's go to candidate on platform or podium number 2.
Ningependa kumuuliza swali.
I'm James Olekiapi, and I've been a public official for 20 years. I am very grateful to God today that I am here as one of the presidential candidates on this historic day
na ndio maana akakupa nguvu ya kuja kugombea hii nafasi ya uspika. Sasa
thank you, Professor Kiapi. Let's go to candidate on platform podium number 3.
Kama wabunge, maana mtuko wa bunge wanawake na wanaume usisahau. Sasa hatujui kwanza ni nguvu gani hizo, lakini pili utatuwezeshaje au na uwezeshaji huo ni wa aina gani? Ni huo ambao mke wako anaujua? Asante mheshimiwa mwenyekiti.
And who seeks to be given the opportunity to make my contribution to this country.
Asante sana.
Through the election that is due in the next few weeks.
Thank you, Honorable Kenyatta. Next candidate on podium number 4.
Thank you for having me here tonight.
Swali kamili.
I am both,
lakini ukipenda unaweza kujibu.
Lack of basic facilities for
asante sana dada yangu.
I'm here tonight because we must fix security.
Kwa swali lako hilo, najua nasema kwamba
fix water and sanitation,
ndio ameniwezesha.
Fix healthcare,
kule kwenye chama tulipambana.
Educational system. We must grow economy.
Na wengine wakaona kwamba mimi naweza kuja kuchukua kiti cha Spika bila mashaka yote.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and this is a moment of self-introduction, so you confirm that you are Peter Kenneth.
You had already said it.
That's right. Let's go to the next candidate, platform number 5.
I am Musalia Mudavadi. I'm the UDF presidential candidate in the Amani coalition. I wish to present myself to the Kenyan people so that I can serve them as the 4th president of the Republic of Kenya. I'm also pleased that I'm part of this historic moment so that Kenyans can listen to us and evaluate us from a different perspective. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mudavadi. Candidate on number 6.
Lakini pia anafahamu majukumu niliyofanya.
Recently a grandmother.
Nasikitika kwamba sikupata nafasi ya kueleza nilitengeneza kipeperushi ambacho waheshimiwa nilitaka kila mmoja akipate ninacho, lakini logistic haikukaa vizuri. Ningepata kunielewa miongoni mwa kazi nilizofanya za kitaifa, za kijamii na hata za kimataifa katika kusimamia. Yeye anafahamu kwa sababu niko naye kwa zaidi ya miaka 20.
You can trust that the promises I make to you will be delivered. I'm a woman of her own word.
Thank you, Honorable Karua. Candidate number 7 tonight.
Good evening, viewers. My name is Raila Amolo Odinga. I'm an engineer by profession, the current Prime Minister. I am happy that this event is taking place today. History is being made. For the first time, presidential candidates are facing Kenyans to tell them what they want to do for them. I hope that this is now a step towards realizing the Kenyan dream as coined by the founding fathers of our nation, which is in our national anthem. I will be going to spend time to tell Kenyans.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honorable Odinga. We go to candidate number 8. You have 30 seconds to tell us about yourself, who you are, and indeed, what is your strength.
My name is Paul Moite, a lawyer by profession.
Na kwa sababu bunge letu linaendeshwa kwa kanuni, naamini utakuwa umepitia kanuni za bunge. Ningeomba unitajie
towards the realization of the new constitution which we now have.
Kwenye jumba hili wa bunge huwa tunatumia mara kwa mara.
But that means to elect. We'll be talking a little later about that.
Thank you very much, and thank you all candidates for introducing yourself. We're now going straight to the issues. And we had indicated to you the broad thematic areas, governance, national security, and social services. And I want us to begin with the single most serious problem in this country, the cancer that afflicts the politics, the elections, and governance in this country, the problem of tribalism or ethnicity. Let's hear from each candidate for 2 minutes what your appreciation of the problem is, and what you intend to do, and how different you will be from the predecessors of the president we are seeking to elect. That is Jomo Kenyatta, Daniel Arap Moi, and Mwai Kibaki, all who made tribe the base of their governance. Let's start with Mr. Dida.
Thank you so much. I think governance is actually the most crucial issue that contributed to the failure of this nation. And the only way out is full implementation of the Constitution.
Mr. Dida, let me remind you, we're talking about tribalism. What is your appreciation of the problem, and what do you intend to do to be different from the previous presidents of this country?
Well, Kenyans, 90% of Kenyans are actually defeated by their own systems of life. And this issue of tribalism is a factor contributed by 5% of each community leaders who want to connect to the leading class. So if this issue of governance is sorted out and the Constitution is fully implemented and everybody has his right, nobody will rush to the other because every Kenyan will have his or her own right. So it is a problem currently biting because of the current economic and social situation in the country. If governance is corrected, then that is a forgotten story. It will go.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dida. 2 minutes for Professor Kiapi.
I just want to start at the outset by saying all Kenyans are born equal, irrespective of which part of the country. And I know that this country is enough for all of us. The reason why tribalism is a problem to us is because leaders have used it as a means of allocating resources and positions, and therefore marginalizing others, marginalizing other Kenyans. If our leaders, and if today we would promise and commit to ourselves that we will share national resources equitably, and that everybody is given a fair chance in life, then I don't have any reason to believe that Kenyans really hate each other that much, because we grew, we went to the same schools. I myself went to Alliance High School and I was the only Maasai boy in Form 1, but nobody looked at me as different. So I believe that it is the leadership that must address this issue.
And you haven't told us, you have a minute to go of your time, you haven't told us what you intend to do as president.
What I want to do as president is that I want a government of inclusion. A government where every Kenyan, irrespective of where they are, will look at those ministers, those permanent secretaries, those ambassadors. It will be done fairly and on merit. I want also a government that will share national resources fairly and equitably, and in a way that all Kenyans feel that this is their country, because it is their country.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Honorable Kenyatta. Your appreciation of the problem of tribalism and how different you intend to be from the past 3 presidents.
Thank you. Let me begin by saying that tribalism is a cancer that has afflicted this country for a very long time and has been a source of conflict, has been a source of death, has been a source of destruction of property. And this, we saw the worst of in the post-election violence of 2007. I personally believe that this problem is largely associated as a result of the battle for resources. And in the past, what we have seen is a position where positions of leadership go and people are made to assume that if your community is in leadership, therefore you will be entitled to a greater share of the cake. We have a new constitution now. That new constitution is very clear on what it requires of all of us as Kenyans. My job as president is to ensure that that constitution is implemented, but furthermore, to ensure that through devolution, something that I've tried practically when I was in the Ministry of Finance, we ensure that resources are distributed accordingly to every part of this country, and ensure that the government that we form is an inclusive government that will ensure that every single Kenyan feels part and parcel of that government.
Just 45 seconds of your time are still on, and I would like to hear from you where the link is between a new constitution and the eradication of tribalism.
First and foremost, I think the constitution is now very clear, and there are very clear guidelines as to what politicians can say, especially during their campaigns. The use of ethnicity as a card in the campaign is something that the Constitution, for example, does not recognize anymore. So therefore, what has been happening in the past, where you've had politicians saying or accusing communities, that isn't there. The hate speech that we have seen in the past. Now we have laws that clearly control and ensure that that kind of language isn't allowed on any political platform. We cannot incite one another. We have to offer what it is our policies are that ensure that we eradicate poverty and deal with the real issues that are of concern to Kenyans.
Thank you, Honorable Kenyatta. Honorable Peter Kenneth, your appreciation of tribalism.
Yes, I grew up in this city, on the eastlands part of it, specifically in Bahati, where all communities were represented, and there was no tribalism. I had the opportunity to go to the Starehe Boys Center, where again was all communities represented. So I've not seen effect in my upgrowing of tribalism. Tribalism is an excuse that poor leadership and weak leadership gives to Kenyans. We come in and practice tribalism because we feel that if it is practiced, then that community A, where I come from, will benefit. We were never taught tribalism in primary. We never learned it in any institution of learning. It is something to do with leadership, and I'll say poor leadership and weak leadership. Now, we have a new constitution. We've always had sets of laws. It is poor enforcement and implementation that continues to drive us to tribalism. Because all forms of impunities either were dealt with at an efficient space and speed, we would not have all these levels of impunities. Now, I want to tell you this. In my plan, I have looked at equality, I have looked at equity, so that never again will Kenyans feel they are not equal. Never again will Kenyans feel that one side of the country is inferior to the other. And I have to make this absolutely clear, that the fight over resources in my plan comes to an end.
Thank you, Honorable Kenneth. We go to Honorable Mudavadi, and I want to remind all candidates, you're here to engage each other, and I hope you're listening to each other, because questions will then be coming up after this. Let's go to Honorable Mudavadi. Your appreciation of ethnicity, tribalism, and what you intend to do if elected president.
Tribalism is real. It is serious. We can try and parry around it, but the fact of the matter is that tribalism is real. And it comes out because there's a sense of insecurity. The way we have practiced our politics is that we have created a sense of insecurity amongst communities. We have reached a stage where we're telling a community, unless you're herded into one corner, then your interests are not properly taken care of. Now, we have an opportunity as a Kenyan people to be able to break away from this. And this is largely based on the issue of the new constitution. The new constitution makes it very clear that the way public resources are going to be distributed within the context of devolution, a formula is going to be put in place determined by Parliament. At the same time, the Constitution makes it very clear that communities that have hitherto been marginalized must not be marginalized. So the solution lies in implementing the Constitution to the letter. The other thing that really comes up is that as we move ahead, it will be very important that we take a public audit of the way our public service, and particularly even within the private sector, is constituting itself. Nobody should cheat ourselves. We should not cheat ourselves. It's so clear that if you did an audit, you will find that there are certain favoritisms that have been occurring in the appointment of public officers, and indeed even within the private sector, where the shareholders being based from one particular community tend to favor people of their community. This must stop.
Thank you, Honorable Mudavadi. Let's go to Honorable Karua. Your appreciation of the problem of ethnicity and what you intend to do if elected president.
Tribalism is more about perceptions and also about how resources are distributed. In every ethnic community, we have a section of the poor. In some areas more than in others. But there is no single ethnic community that does not have poor and desperate people. So it is the perception that because you're from community X, you have no problem, others are the ones having a problem. I think it's perpetuated more by leadership. We have to own up as leaders, take responsibility and lead people out of this. How I will deal with it as president? One is to ensure that we equalize all the areas in terms of development, or bring them to as near as possible. And that is not just through the devolved funds, it's by deliberately giving more funds to areas that have been hitherto marginalized. When our development across the country, across the 47 counties, is as nearly as equal as possible, nobody will listen to leadership talking about tribalism. But now the desperation leads people to believe that a person from your ethnic group will do better. Secondly, it will be through public education. Nobody gets their food every day from their tribe. It's from their sweat or their brow. And when a citizen is sleeping hungry, their tribe or the leader from their tribe is not with them, it's that person and their God. Therefore, we ought to unite together to develop our country, but as a leader, I'll lead from the front, and I'll ensure that in my government there is inclusion both in cabinet and in other jobs as we fight this scourge.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Honorable Odinga.
Okay, nashukuru ndugu mwenyekiti kwa sababu tunafuata na yeye anafuata kanuni. Amesema hilo swali sio swali, lakini kama naweza kulijibu. Naomba tulimjibu kwa kumsaidia pia mjumbe wangu kwa sababu nategemea nipigia kula. Katika sera ya vijana ambayo rais wetu amekuwa akipigia kelele sana, kuna mambo mengi sana yanayohusu kuwawezesha vijana kiuchumi. Jambo la kwanza, sera ya kwanza ni kuhakikisha vijana wanapata mafunzo ya msingi ya kuweza kujifanya wakajikimu kwenye maisha yao. Kwenye hiyo sera ukienda kuisoma, kwenye hiyo sera ukienda kusoma sera vijana, inasema vijana watasaidiwa kupata mikopo ili kuwawezesha kufanya shughuli zao. Sera ya vijana pia inasema itahamasisha vijana waweze kuachana na tabia ambazo zinaweza kuwaelekea kwenye mazingira hatarishi ili waweze kujenga taifa lao. Sera nyingine inahusu vijana ni sera ya vijana inayosema ni kujitahidi vijana waweze kuhamasishwa wakaweza kushiriki kwenye shughuli za serikali na shughuli zao wenyewe. Jambo lingine la sera ya vijana ni kuhakikisha vijana wanaweza kuwa walinzi wa taifa letu na rasilimali zao. Nadhani hizo ndio sera tano ukienda kuzisoma zinapatikana, na nadhani rais alishasema alianzishe baraza la vijana na sisi tunaunga mkono hilo jambo litokee. Asante sana.
That we promote education for all our children.
Naona ameshasimama. Karibu mheshimiwa.
Kenyan has access to Medicare. That all the social amenities are available to everybody. But most importantly, that people are united at the national level. When somebody goes on a national screen and flaunts ethnic figures to say that because our candidates come from these communities, because of this election has already been won at the time of registration, it's a very dangerous proposition because it basically rubbishes the other communities. We in CORD know that we have a solution to this problem.
And your time is up. Let's go to Honorable Muite.
I would begin by saying we need to accept we are 42 different ethnic communities speaking different mother tongues, and there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, because all these 42 communities are human beings with the same aspirations, same needs, and whatever. It is negative ethnicity that is a problem. And that comes about because of the high levels of poverty in this country, because of corruption, because of impunity. So people feel insecure and wrongly believe that they can only advance
economically kwa swali lako zuri. Naomba nijibu kama ifuatavyo. Nadhani maelezo yangu ya awali kama uliyafuatilia, kabla sijaenda kuongea kwamba tutawezesha vijana na kufunga sera, nilisema kwamba nitahakikisha nikiwa spika wa bunge kwamba kwa sababu bunge linaongoza kwa mujibu wa kanuni na sheria, nitahakikisha zile sheria ambazo haziko vizuri kwa ujumla wote tuzifanyie kazi. Sasa sikutaka nitaje, manake ningetaja wanawake, wazee ningewasahau. Ningetaja wazee ningewasahau vijana, ningetaja vijana ningewasahau wenye ulemavu. Kwa hiyo bunge letu linaendeshwa kwa mujibu wa kanuni na sheria. Kwa hiyo mimi nikiwa kama spika wa bunge nitajitahidi kuhakikisha mambo yote ambayo yanahusu taifa letu
tunayaweka sawa. Kwa hiyo la vijana nimepachika kwa sababu nimekuja kwa sababu kwa wagombea niliowaona nimeona kama vijana, na vijana wengi walivyoona nimeteuliwa na tume kuja kugombea walikuwa na matumaini makubwa. Kwa hiyo nilitaka kuliweka hilo sawa, lakini tutahakikisha tunaenda kuboresha sera zetu za kuhakikisha tunasaidiaje kama taifa kupiga hatua kwenye kutunga kanuni zetu vizuri, kuzisimamia kanuni vizuri, lakini pia na kuhakikisha zile kanuni tunazotunga zinakuwa zinaleta matokeo chanya kwa wananchi wetu. Hiyo ndio mujibu wa maelezo yangu ya awali.
And some of you specifically to campaigns, current campaigns. None of you have referred to the campaigns, and I want to refer you to that. Campaigns have taken the shape of a contest between tribes or blocks of tribes. I want to specifically put on the spot CORD, the Honorable Odinga, and Jubilee, the Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, to immediately, right now, respond to that perception that both of you are indeed leading tribes or blocks of tribes, and specifically against each other. Starting with Honorable Uhuru.
Thank you very much. Let me say this. Our Jubilee platform is a platform that has been built on issues. If you have followed and listened to the speeches that we have made with my running mate, Honorable William Ruto, throughout the country, we have emphasized the need for us to be able to focus on the real issues that affect our people: unemployment, poverty, the social infrastructure, the need for us to be able to pull together as Kenyans, the need for us to be able to be united and understanding that the best way to deal with our problems is not for leaders to be pulling apart, but working together. Despite our own personal differences, we need to pull together. Now, it is indeed true that numbers are being bandied around. But those numbers, if you look, are largely also being bandied around by the political analysts who are out there. Just as there's language that is also...
But would you admit, Honorable Kenyatta, that your campaign revolves around the Kikuyu and Kalenjin communities?
I would completely disagree. If you would look at where we have had all our rallies so far, I have not had a single rally yet in Central Province since I was nominated. We have been campaigning in Coast Province. We have been campaigning up in Meru. We were in Rift Valley the other day. We're moving on to Lower Eastern, where we intend to be. So we've been up to Kuria. So we are actually conducting a national campaign, a campaign that is aimed at bringing all Kenyans together with the purpose of forming a government that will be all-inclusive and that will deal with the real issues that face common mwananchi.
Bringing Kenyans together, Honorable Kenyatta, and when you were in Meru last month, when you asked a certain region not to divide their vote, what do you mean?
Well, what I am saying is, if we understand and we are moving on the same platform, we saw a situation where, for example, you have a number of candidates in a particular constituency, all saying they support the same presidential candidate, but yet they are on different platforms. And I said, if we really want to implement the agenda that we have, given our new constitution, given the strength and the powers that have been given to Parliament, if we don't have the necessary numbers in Parliament to implement our agenda, it is going to make it difficult. So I was saying, if you have 2 or 3 or 4 candidates claiming to support me, then I say, then we need to be in one party so that we can implement the agenda and the promises that we're making in Parliament.
We'll come back to you, Honorable Kenyatta. Let me go to Honorable Odinga. And I want to take you back to 2002, 2005, 2007, and now. Your politics revolve around building or getting appointment from tribes. I'm talking about a summit, 2002. I'm talking about the Orange campaign against the new constitution in 2007. I'm also talking about the Pentagon in 2007. And now lately, you talk about triangle, all made up of appointment from regions. Isn't this tribalism, Mr. Odinga?
First, you know, Kenyans must come from certain regions. They cannot be invented from the moon. So people come together for a particular purpose. Like now you have got CORD. It's a coalition of the willing. People who have come together because of certain values that they share together. In 2002, That was the third time that the opposition was going for an election. Remember, we lost in 92. We lost also again in 97. So in 2002, we decided to come together and rally behind one person. That's why I said Kibaki Tosha. That was to unite the people of Kenya, to unite the people. Say the Luos could not vote for Kibaki because it was a Kikuyu, and no Luo can vote for a Kikuyu. I said Kikuyus are Kenyans. And there was never a war between Luos and Kikuyus. And I managed to campaign for Kibaki, that Kibaki got majority of votes. You need to know that James Orengo, a Luo, was also a presidential candidate in 1992.
That was 2002. That was 2002, Honorable Odinga. But isn't it true that in the 2005 and 2000 votes, your mathematics was a simple 41 minus 42 minus 1? And you know what I mean?
That is a creation of the media. Nowhere did anybody talk about 41 versus 1. That was actually propaganda. We talked of uniting all the people of Kenya, and we were running against an incumbent who happened to come from one particular community. But ODM was basically a national movement which brought in the communities from all over the country, like CORD today. CORD is a national movement which has brought Kenyans from all walks of life, different communities, and they never talked about ethnicity. It is our opponents who are being ethnic figures to try to intimidate the other communities by saying that, oh, this election has already been won because the candidate and this running mate come from this community and so many other votes which are registered in this community. We are saying that basically misses the point. The point is that every Kenyan matter, whether it's an El Molo, the smallest tribe, or a Kikuyu, the biggest tribe. Let us work together to unite the people of this country. This is what CORD stands for. One Kenya, one nation, for all.
And I'm going to the rest of the candidates now, but before I go there, still to Uhuru and Raila, the question of the rivalry between the Kikuyu and the Luo communities, which is at the epicenter of the Kenya's ethnicity problem. There are people who view you, a lot of people view you as taking it on from where your fathers left it. Jomo Kenyatta and Jaramogi Oginga Odinga, both of you picking it up from 69.
Kenya has come a long way since then. And I want to remind those Kenyans who maybe have that feeling that they just need to look back into recent history. As late as 1997, we were together with the Honorable Raila in the Kano government, and we campaigned together until the time of Kasarani. We parted ways, and he went to support Mwai Kibaki. Soon thereafter, the 2005 referendum, again, we campaigned on the same platform, and he led the No campaign for the Constitution at the time. And I supported him and campaigned throughout the country. So personally, I have no differences with the Honorable Raila. I see him as a colleague, I see him as a brother, but we may differ on how to handle some of the issues that face this country. And I think that is why we have elections, so that the people of Kenya are given an opportunity to choose between the candidates.
No, I don't agree totally with my brother, Uhuru Kenyatta. We have nothing personal between each one of us. In fact, we are best of friends. And you remember, if you go down the memory lane, my father spearheaded the struggle for release of Jomo Kenyatta from prison. He was a Luo, Kenyatta was a Kikuyu, but they were united. In 2002, I said Kibaki Tosha. Kibaki is a Kikuyu, but I said Kikuyu is a Kenyan. So we managed to unite the people behind us. We disagreed on the issue of MOU and on the Constitution. And on that issue of the Constitution, me and my brother Uhuru Kenyatta were on the same side. We campaigned for no, and that's where the orange was born against the banana. But now we want to see that Kenyans make an informed choice on the basis of policies. Jubilee has got a policy document. CORD has got a policy document.
Thank you. Thank you, Honorable Odinga. And I want to bring in the rest of the candidates now on this issue of ethnicity, particularly what is emerging tonight, and generally that greater responsibilities lies with CORD and Jubilee on the question of ethnicity. And I want to bring in Martha Karua.
What I'd like to say is that Kenyans can hear for themselves today. The leaders denying that there's no tribal overtones. Kenyans are the judges. And I would like to tell Kenyans that there's no difference between a poor Luo, a poor Kikuyu, a hungry member of any tribe, and we are better off uniting and fighting together to liberate ourselves from hunger, to liberate ourselves from lack of access to medical services, to get ourselves better education. We are better united and following the denial, because no politician will admit they are peddling tribalism. Following our denials here, my urging to Kenyans, please do not allow us to mislead you. No tribe puts food on your table. It is you, your God, and the opportunities that you have. Why don't we join hands to create opportunities for every Kenyan? I look forward to the day that our laws will be properly applied so that any leader who makes speeches that are inciting ethnicity, irrespective of their social standing, is actually made to account under our laws.
Thank you very much. And now for the remaining candidates, I'll give them 30 seconds each, starting with the Honorable Mudavadi. Your campaign also seemed to be focusing on Western Kenya only.
No, I think you've got it wrong. That is absolutely false, because we are traversing the entire country. We are campaigning in the entire country. A few days ago, I was in the coastal region, and I intend to go to other parts of the country, and in Nairobi. So that is not true. But I stand here in a very unique position. I'm one of the few people standing here today who has supported Uhuru for the presidential candidate in 2002, and supported Honorable Raila as a president in 2007 elections. So clearly, from that perspective, the tag of tribalism should be distanced from me.
Thank you very much. Honorable Kenneth.
Well, I'm very surprised tonight because we are being economical with truth. We need to look at the Kenyans right straight into the eye. We have wiped tribal emotions since we became a multi-party state. That's why we have hundreds of Kenyans in IDP camps. It is tribal emotions. And this is why we must now start discussing issues. We must start being realistic. We now must start thinking that we must elect what is right, not what is convenient. We must break away the historical bondage that we've been tied to in the last 50 years.
Thank you, Kenneth. Let's go to Professor Kiapi. Professor Kiapi, you come from a very small tribe and you're talking about big numbers, big ethnic numbers. Do you count?
Utapewa nafasi ya kujieleza na kuomba kura kwa dakika 3 na unaweza kuulizwa maswali matatu kama yapo. Karibu.
And I want to say this.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti.
Has always been near election time, the leaders who want power, and there's nothing wrong getting power, must always sit down and look at the ethnic arithmetic, and then you know which block you can pull. And in between, the nation will be and has been divided right down the middle. And I think that was the reason that informed RBK, my party, Restore and Build Kenya, to resist the temptation to be part of blockings that will continue to divide Kenya. And it doesn't matter how long it will take, we will pursue that philosophy that we want a country that is one and united in every way, including in our own party.
Thank you very much. You need to move to the next topic, the question of
this issue of fear, insincerity and betrayal that these leaders may swallow us started in 1965 when KADU was formed. One stylistic device that is commonly used in the Kenyan administrative system is irony, where you talk exactly opposite of what you mean. And it has gone, now it is dramatic. Who are the leaders for all those times when we are discussing tribalism in the 21st century? who are those who were in the box leading? The same leaders are trying to, if your football team fails scoring or winning, and you change their uniform, it won't help. Dear Kenyans, listen well, and it is up to you to judge.
Thank you very much. Honorable Moita,
first of all, let me say how pleased I am to hear the Right Honorable Prime Minister saying that the mantra 41 versus 1 was a creation of the media, and the media does very well. It needs to be renounced more and more and more. But let us admit that ethnicity is a major challenge in our politics today. Poses a very major challenge, and really the route to eradicating ethnicity is through empowerment, economic and social empowerment, because every person, irrespective of their tribe, wants adequate clean water, decent house, access to affordable healthcare, and so on and so forth. So let us move towards getting Kenyans to ask us as leaders, how are you going to improve my economic social situation, rather than vote for me because I come from your tribe.
We have to bring this to a conclusion. You may remember from the days yesterday, we had a look at them. There was a caricature of this debate. And right behind you is a huge elephant. A very, very big elephant towering over all the candidates. We now want to bring the elephant into the room, and that is the ICC question. I want to begin with Uhuru Kenyatta.
Nashukuru sana kwa kweli kupata fursa hii. Naomba mnichague kwa mantiki hiyo kwamba napata mtu ambaye ataweza kuleta teknolojia mpya na kufanya bunge leo ya kisasa zaidi na kuleta mabadiliko ambayo Mheshimiwa Rais wetu anatarajia. Imani ya Bwana Mwenzi, Mungu iwabariki nyote.
And I have said this severally. First and foremost, the issue of the crimes that we are accused of. We have not been found guilty in any way whatsoever. This is an ongoing case, and we and my deputy have made it very clear that it is indeed our intention to follow the process through and to ensure that we clear our names. At the same time, we are offering ourselves in a position of leadership in this country, a position that we believe and we want to pass on to Kenyans, an agenda that will first and foremost ensure that the kind of things that caused the problems of 2007 are to an end, and to really be able to focus on the critical issues that face the people of Kenya. As I have said, the issue of poverty, the issue of unemployment, lack of basic services. And it is on that platform that we are campaigning. Now, like with everybody else, and I'm getting there, like with everything else.
We need some clarity, Honorable Kenyatta.
Yes.
The question is, how will you govern if elected president in the first round, for example, your trial is in April?
I was getting to that point, and what I was saying is that the way it currently is, many Kenyans are faced with personal challenges, and I take this as a personal challenge. I'm sure that my colleagues here also have other challenges. But those challenges do not prevent one from continuing with their day-to-day job. If the people of Kenya do decide to vote for me as their president, I will be able to handle the issue of clearing my name, while at the same time ensuring that the business of government continues, our manifesto and our agenda for Kenya is implemented. And furthermore, even if we look at the current situation, the ICC itself, in recognition of the fact that there may be this issue, are even saying we can move this case closer by. In 2 days' time, and we are in the middle of a campaign, we will be having a status conference. That status conference will be handled through video conferencing. The business of government will not end.
Just a moment, Mr. Dida, you want to interject on this?
Yeah.
Sure,
according to the culture of justice, if you are found suspected of a crime, the norms that we had is you step aside until you're cleared. If there is nothing with you and you are found not guilty, then you resume your office. Why is it different with Uhuru and his friends.
Ni mwanasiasa wa muda mrefu, niko katika vyama mbalimbali, nilikuwepo Chadema.
The position I am looking for is an elective position, not an appointive position. The position I seek is given by the people of Kenya through their democratic, which is their democratic right. And it is also my democratic right to present myself to Kenyans. They know full well the issues that I am confronting. If they so choose to elect me, it means they have confidence in my ability to discharge my duties as president while still handling the case that is before me.
Thank you. And some of your opponents have raised the ICC issue as an integrity question in the campaign trail. And I want to bring in Martha Karua because you've been on record about the ICC question.
Yes, I consider it a matter of display of impunity. Like Mr. what the opponent, Mr. Ndida, has indicated. We have laws, the Public Officers Ethics Act. If you're just suspected of crime and you're a public officer, you're supposed to step aside to facilitate investigations. We have another law, the anti-corruption law. It demands if you're a public officer and you're charged with a criminal offense, you actually stand suspended. You have to be suspended pending the outcome. So since the charges were framed, my brother ought to have been suspended as a deputy prime minister, and if he gets elected president, the question is, are you going to be suspended before taking oath or after taking oath? Any Kenyan can go to court to challenge the position in office, because as our law stands, there is that hurdle.
And Kenyatta has a right of reply to
ya kuwa Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, kwani mimi nitalitendea haki bunge hili na nitatoa changamoto zote zikuwepo ndani ya bunge hili na kuliweka bunge liwe la mfano duniani na Afrika kwa ujumla. Ndugu zangu wa bunge, mtegemee mafanikio makubwa sana kupitia kwangu, kwani nitaondoa zile changamoto zilizokuwepo za wabunge kudaiwa zile vyombo vya usafiri wakati wanaenda kufanya kazi kuwatumikia wananchi. Nitaondoa madeni yote. I think we need to distinguish between an appointed position, of which that is not what I'm seeking, and an elective one. An elective one, not with anything hidden, but with Kenyans knowing full well the charges that are before me. So therefore, as far as I am concerned, and there is a case already in court, and I do believe that case will be heard, I think it's this week, and the issue of the integrity question will be without a doubt resolved.
And I'll give the rest of the candidates 30 seconds, starting with Peter Kenneth on the same issue.
First of all, I voted for the local tribunal, and we didn't succeed. Because I also feel we have put too much concentration on the 4 indicted persons. And we have many Kenyans out there still languishing in very poor situations arising from that event of the last election. For me, I would go with the presumption of innocence until proved guilty. I would like to defeat my brother in a proper electoral process, rather than have him eliminated, so that we can square the ball out squarely. But I also want to say this. Article 10 of our Constitution on national values and Chapter 6 are very key, and we need to address them even as we address the issue of ICC.
Yes, I think this is a very delicate matter for the people of Kenya. One of the important things that we must figure out is that as we try to come to the next election, what is the destiny of the Kenyan nation? This is absolutely essential when we are conducting ourselves and conducting our politics. Nobody should actually be facing trial outside Kenyan soil. That is something I believe in, and that is something I also voted for, so that we had we wanted a local tribunal. But the point I'm trying to make here, and I want to make it very quickly, is that there are definitely implications on how Kenyans will conduct their vote. This is something that we have to grapple with. They have a freedom to make the choice, but we are seeing dangerous signals that need to be thought through by the Kenyan people.
But 5 of you here were in that cabinet that failed to bring the trials to Kenya, make it a local process. Are you then admitting failure of leadership on your part?
We are not admitting failure of leadership on our part. I think we are dealing with a situation where people did not understand a situation at that particular moment in time. And I want to say that I, and indeed some of the people who are here, fought so forcefully to have this matter handled through a local mechanism. But there was also an equally potent member of our parliament, potent members of our parliament, who thought that they would rather have this thing handled outside. And they carried the day at that time. But on this one, I can tell you that quite a number of us stood for local mechanism.
Every Kenyan knows how I stood on this particular matter. Kofi Annan actually warned us about the Hague. And me and President Kibaki spent nearly 8 hours in Parliament trying to convince our colleagues to vote for a local tribunal. Unfortunately, 2 of our colleagues who are now in the Hague are the ones who led the campaign against a local tribunal. Unfortunately, I am the one who is now being accused of having taken people to the Hague, because nothing could be further from the truth. I do not want to eliminate any kind of competition. That's why I would rather have my brother on the ballot. But I know that it will pose serious challenges to run a government by Skype from the Hague. I know that it's not practical.
My plea is to spare a thought for the victims, the 1,300 people, Kenyan people, innocent, who were murdered, who were killed, leaving behind relatives, the many women and men who were raped. Let us spare a thought for the victims. Let us also agree that we cannot continue with the culture of impunity. But having said that, the way to tackle the issue of impunity is to go to the highest levels where it is to be found. And I must say that as a lawyer, having read the Rome Statute, I know because the ICC cannot handle the cases of everybody or accused persons, jurisdiction is limited to those holding the highest responsibility. As a federal government, we revisit the issue of jurisdiction. Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta,
kama mbunge inatakiwa akabidhiwe gari lenye hadhi ambayo la kupanda milima mirefu.
If you are going to charge 6 people, you must begin with number 1, number 2 to number 6.
Mkinichagua kuwa spika wa bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania,
whether there was blinking on the part of the office of the president.
Lazima namkabidhi gari lenye uhakika bila mkopo.
So that those holding the highest responsibility perhaps go to the dock there. The others can be dealt with.
Kwa sababu waheshimiwa wabunge,
are you talking about presidential candidates and therefore the colleague to your right, Raila Odinga?
Hatuna sababu ya kupeana madeni kwa sababu mbunge ukiwa na madeni ya kulipa gari utashindwa kuwasaidia Watanzania ambao wanahitaji maendeleo kutoka kwenu.
But the 2 candidates did not know about it. It's only these other 4 Kenyans who are facing the charges there, and the 2 candidates did not have a clue about it. That is an issue I would want to see investigated. As a federal government, we would revisit that issue.
Honorable Odinga, you respond to
that. That is a most irresponsible statement that you have made. Because my friend needs to know that investigation was carried out by a commission which was appointed through the Serena process led by Justice Waki, which then produced the list of names which were handed over to Kofi Annan, who was the leader of the process. And then that list was handed over to Campo. Me, I don't fear, because I have nothing to hide. I know exactly what I did. And I know that I was not responsible. And I will be very willing to go to the Hague if I'm going to take me there.
Yeah, Martha.
I just wanted to disprove that the 2 principles actually pushed for the local tribunal. I was Minister of Justice then. The entire cabinet passed the bill. But when I reached Parliament, they left me with the baby. The two principals, in spite of my pleas to them, failed to come and persuade members. They merely came to vote, and in their full view, there was rebellion, cabinet pushing people to vote, refuse to vote for the local tribunal. So to put the record straight, the two principals did not stand in Parliament and persuade their troops to vote for the local tribunal.
And one of the principals is here,
right here with us.
Yes, I really just want to jog the memory of my sister here. That first we had a joint PG meeting of PNU and ODM, co-chaired by President Baki and myself in the old chambers, pleading with the members to agree to vote for the local tribunal. This is a record, even the Hansard bears out. But we tried as much to persuade all the members to vote for the local tribunal. But the clarion call was, don't be vague, let us go to the Hague, unfortunately.
But Prime Minister, why is it very difficult for a lot of people to believe your position on the ICC question? The common perception is you put a front that looks like you support local process when indeed you want it. Your opponents out of the country.
We first set up a cabinet committee on ICC, chaired by the late Professor Saitoti. I think it was the former Attorney General. There was also Tula Kilonzo, James Orengo, Amazon Kingi, and so on. They went first to Geneva, then they went to The Hague, where Mr. Ocampo told him he was not interested in coming to Kenya. If Kenyans can agree to set up a local tribunal, the ICC would not get involved. So we tried everything possible. The second time we went to the cabinet, when Martha had already resigned from the government, it was shot down in the cabinet. And the two who are now in The Hague led the campaign in the cabinet to shoot down the proposal to set up a local tribunal.
Yeah, finally on this question. Okay, Honorable Kenyatta.
I think there's a discrepancy there because he just said cabinet passed it. It was rejected on the floor of Parliament, so we couldn't have let an slot in cabinet because I think
jamani, hilo swali linahusiana na mgombea
and on the floor. I think Martha
wapiga kura wamesema hilo sio swali.
On the floor there was complete confusion. There was no guidance. And as many members of the ODM team, as many members of the PNU disagreed with the position. So it was not as my brother Raila would put it, that he mobilized his troops to vote for a local process because his own troops rebelled on that particular position with regard to this document.
30 seconds.
No, the troops that rebelled from ODM are troops who were loyal to my friend William Ruto and whom he had told to vote against it. Yet the troops who were loyal to me voted for a local tribunal to be set up here. But then I was saying that there was a second attempt after Martha had resigned from the government by Mtula Kilonzo. He redrafted the bill, brought it to the cabinet. It was not approved. It was rejected in the cabinet through the intervention of my friends.
Are you satisfied with that?
I think the Hansard record and voting record will prove that it was actually not that way.
Thank you. Professor Kiapi.
I wanted to make 2 points. And the first one is that it doesn't really matter now what we did or didn't do. The judicial process at The Hague is on. And for me, the question Kenyans must ask and the answers must be given is whether or not my brother here should run for president. And that can be given by our courts. And if our courts fail to give the answer, he himself can give the answer by saying, I'll step aside in view of this until I clear myself, and I don't want to engage the country in this matter. And if he himself, of course, refuses to do that, then he has actually put the ball to the Kenyan people that he is running and let the Kenyan people decide. And I think it's very, very important as a country that we don't continue to always bury our hair.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Kiapi. Your time is up. Let me go back to Martha. Your hand was up.
I just wanted to remind my worthy colleague here, Honorable Raila, there was no vote on the local tribunal because for a constitutional debate, you need 148 members. Those who didn't want a local tribunal literally whipped people out of parliament. I was left there pleading for them to come back, so there was no vote.
Now finally, closing this matter, I'll come back to you, but on a different issue, totally on the same. Just in closing that particular issue of the ICC, all of you are presidential candidates, and each one of you stands a chance of being next president. And just looking at what the ICC question has done to the country, the exchange with diplomats, and the perception that local systems don't work, that is why some of the Kenyans ended up in the Hague. What do you feel about this? Because there are Kenyans who are embarrassed about this, starting with Duda. 30 seconds, please. And please keep to your time.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you are taken for justice, whether to Tanzania or Europe or here in Kibera. Justice is justice unless you have intentions to compromise. But I just wanted to advise Kenyans and the leaders. Personally, my personal view about ICC needs some time. But what I'm saying is if anybody is not comfortable with the idea, then you need to give up and just give room. Listen, you know, Kenya is not an island. The outside world is speaking, Kenyans are speaking. Unless a leader is saying, I have a number in my community, I will look for another community. If I add the two, whatever the world says, I will make it. Unless you're thinking like that, it is comfortable. I don't know why a junior clerk should be forced to step aside. And the minister should, I don't know that disparity. Why are we given the metallic stand? Is it the same thing that we are discussing?
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Let's go to Professor Kiapo.
There are two key things in our country, and one of them is that we must build the capacity of our institutions. We must do that, whether it is the judiciary or parliament, we must build the capacity. But the second and most important is
the question, Professor, and you have 15 seconds left, is the image of the country as perceived after the ICC question.
Yeah, the image of the country is obviously everybody's looking at us because one, we failed to use our own local processes, and now the whole world is wondering how Kenya is going to pull out of this. And we need leadership for that.
Thank you very much.
There was a lot of misgiving, and I think it was that misgiving which was used in the 2007 election, that our courts could not be trusted. That is why some of us here went to the street. The disrepute of our courts started there, and it caused us a lot of problem, but we now have a new constitution. We want to build on the institutions that we have. We want to build and rebuild the judiciary to restore confidence in the people with our own judicial system. And that is something that I as President will continue to support as I continue, because that is the circumstance we find ourselves, clearing our name through the international court where we are currently present.
Asante sana kwa swali zuri mheshimiwa. Kwanza kabisa nianze kwa kuomba kura yako ya ndio. Ili niweze kuwa spika wa bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania.
We must ensure that Kenya's best interests are in place. I am saying that because if we do not place Kenya first and we look at our own individualism and look at it and square it out, it will not help Kenya. Kenya will live beyond all of us.
Thank you, Honorable David.
It definitely puts us in a very awkward situation as a nation. And I would say that I would want to appeal to the Kenyans out there that this is not a laughing matter at all. This is indeed a very serious matter. And a serious decision has got to be made, because once we get to the ballot, and we hope we all can get to the ballot, you must ask yourself, is your vote a vote that is being cast for the Kenyan people, for the nation, or is it simply a vote that you're casting for a particular individual? I think all of us will embody certain aspects of nationhood, and I think that is important, that it comes out clearly when the voting is done.
Thank you. The issue is the image of the country.
Yeye wakati anajitambulisha ametaja na miaka 21 alafu akasema na miaka 27. Sasa nataka umri wake wa ukweli ni upi?
But the entire criminal justice system has not been reformed. The judiciary alone cannot make it. We need a reformed prosecutor's office. We need a reformed investigations office and correction services. I would move as president to make sure that the reforms of the criminal justice system are all-encompassing so that Kenya never suffers any other time. And let us remember that the IDPs, the victims of the clashes, have not had justice. And justice is key to reconciliation.
Thank you very much. Honorable Odinga.
Kenya is a sovereign country, a sovereign nation. We discuss our issues not at the behest of the international community. We need to do what we think is right for this country. People of Kenya should make an informed choice in electing their leadership without interference. But I believe very strongly that our judiciary right now has the capacity to deal with this issue and give direction to the country.
Right. Finally, we need to be proud as Kenyans that we have a new progressive constitution, very good constitution, setting up independent institutions and commissions. The challenge is implementing fully and faithfully this new constitution. When we do that, the image of Kenya outside will change. By and large, we got it right with the institution of the judiciary. But the institution of the police is being faced with the challenges, as we are all reading, some acrimony between the police service commission, the inspector general, the office of the president, the oversight authority. Something appears not to have gone quite right with the recruitment of those who are serving in the police service commission. So we need to get that right for the judiciary to be effective. But it is humiliating to see ourselves as a nation being talked down to by other nations. But it is because of corruption, impunity, failure of leadership, and the begging culture. If we can stand on our own, economically and socially, we shall be respected and we shall not be talked down. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to close the issue of ICC and move to the final issue of this part one of the presidential debate. And the issue now is on party politics. If we don't get the construction or the foundation right, you can't expect to get right the rest of the structure. I want to go to the issue of political parties right now. What are you as party flag bearers doing to make sure that the country departs from the culture of temporary political parties that are formed and disbanded, formed shortly before the election, then disbanded thereafter. Dida, we are hearing of the Alliance for Real Change for the first time. Most people tell you that.
Nashukuru sana.
How many minutes do I have?
Naombeni kura zenu za ndio kwa wingi.
Alliance for Real Change is a product of the new constitution and is the voice of the hopeless. What we have in mind is working with the registrar of political parties, the ABC, to ensure that the code of conduct and peace prevails in this nation.
But are you concerned that it just came up the other day when you are presenting your papers that there is a party called?
When a teacher moved, I was teaching 40 students in a class, and whatever message I was giving the students, I realized the 40 million Kenyans are lacking in the same. So I just expanded my class. I just want to teach the 40 million Kenyans that, we cannot survive on hide and games. You cannot cry when people are crying. You go and you laugh when people are laughing. We need to be principled. And all what we are saying is just the contrary of what we do. So I tried, we registered this party to clean up the legislature and the executive. But when I saw all aspirants mad of money, I was just gesturing where money is. And I told them we have, because all candidates were arguing that why should I go for a certificate of good conduct, chapter 6 of the Constitution, when it has been scrapped by what Kenyans refer to as vultures. So when we realized that the legislator cannot be corrected at this particular time, and then I thought we should base on the executive, and then for the next 5 years work on how we can work on.
So how old is your party?
Yeah.
How old is your party?
My party, in terms of thoughts, we are very old because.
Okay, thank you very
much. In paper.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Let's give 2 minutes to Professor Kiapi to talk about parties. Yes.
RBK, Restore and Build Kenya, is a party, it's a grassroots party that many of us formed, professionals, people who just wanted to do politics differently. And we were not afraid not to be branded as, non-status in terms of the political game. But we wanted to stick to the values of restoration of the values of this country, hope to our young people, empowerment to everybody, a party of integrity where leadership can be trusted. And we build this, and I'm very glad because in terms of efficiency of organization, we are actually an example of how a grassroots organization can grow and be something with minimal resources. All of you knew that I was a public official, I was a civil servant.
You have 10 seconds, Professor. Let me just quickly ask you, if you are defeated, if you don't become president, will RBK remain in place?
But it is already remaining in place. It refused to join alliances to get lost. So it is a party beyond the election. It's a part of the future.
Thank you, Honorable Kenyatta. TNA, Jubilee.
As many of you know, I was the chairman of KANU for a good number of years. But after disagreements within the party that we were unable to resolve, I found it necessary to start my own political party in order to be able to group together with other individuals, other like-minded individuals, and to build on a platform where we would have issues drive our agenda. It is unfortunate, but the KANU party was not willing to open itself up to alliances at that time with other parties, which I thought was necessary. We needed to start reducing the number of parties that we have in order to be able to come up with parties that are able to focus on issues, fewer parties that we can build, strengthen, build structures around. And that is why when we formed our party, immediately we embarked to try and look for partners who we could at least enter into this election with and build on and hopefully merge to create a strong political foundation that would be issue-based and that would be able to survive personalities or individuals for that matter.
Thank you very much,
Kenya National Congress is one of the oldest parties. It was formed at the advent of multi-party politics in 1992. And I'm hoping that we can develop ideology so that the party can continue surviving as it has survived in the last 20 years and survive many more years thereafter. I was a little disappointed when Parliament passed the party hopping date from October to January 4th. Then again, near January 4th, Parliament again shifted the party hopping date to 18th of January. And beyond that, we are aware that the registrar of political parties was still allowing party shift after the 18th of January. It is important that enforcement of rules are clear and that laws that are created are not torpedoed by Parliament. We need a serious Parliament that will stick to the laws that are enacted to protect the gains of political parties.
I'll give you an additional 30 seconds just to explain to viewers and people watching this debate why you would pick a party that is from the days as back as 1992. What ideological link between your thoughts and that of KNC did you follow? You just picked it as a vehicle of the election?
No, I actually picked KNC quite about 4 years ago. And we've been working with the German Foundation to try and create an ideology party-based. And therefore, we've been very, very clear. I do not hold any position. And KNC should survive as it has survived in the last 20 years and many more years beyond my stay as its party leader for this presidential election. Yes, thank you.
Your philosophy on parties.
I think what we have now is that we will need to relook at the legislation around political parties. Because whether we go into the age of the party or not, I think there are some fundamental issues about the law regarding political parties that we need to be looked at. One of the problems that we have towards the end of the last parliament, the 10th parliament, was the crash program of trying to pass so many pieces of legislation, all revolving on matters to do with election. And believe you me, it is better for us to admit that certain pieces of that legislation were not well thought out. Therefore, in my view, if we want to build parties based on ideology, based on a long-term basis, we will need to visit that legislation. We have seen shifts even during the nomination process. We have to properly democratize our parties, have serious internal democracy in our political parties, so that there is sufficient confidence being built with the membership of those parties. So that is what I would say.
Thank you, Honorable Mudavadi. Honorable Karua, your philosophy on parties.
Kama unasema unafanya maendeleo, yani unahitaji maendeleo, lakini unafanya vitu vile vile.
I believe a government
na maendeleo yanakuja na mabadiliko, na mabadiliko ni lazima.
And this is what informed the political parties law 2007, which I tabled when I was minister. Parties are supposed to have an ideology to pull people together. In Kenya, we are social democrats. Right from our constitution, it is stated, the issues that matter to us is about social justice, equity, to see that the vulnerable in society are protected, issues of human dignity and inclusivity. And I would say that it's unfortunate. The political parties law has not been enforced properly. We need to strengthen the office of the registrar. We need to appoint new people as per the constitution, but the blame cannot just go to the registrar. It must go to political party leadership. It is the duty of the leadership to nurture democracy, transparency and accountability. We do that in Kenya, and we have offices and networks throughout the 47 counties. This is a growing mass movement. Any party that does not practice democracy and accountability like was displayed openly during the nominations, the blame is on the leadership.
Thank you very much, Honorable Karua. Now we come to Honorable Odinga. And it's curious to note that for the first time since 1996, when you went to Parliament on an NDP ticket, having abandoned Ford Kenya, you have not changed parties before this election. It is curious and interesting, and we want to hear what your philosophies on parties, your philosophy on parties is.
Well, what happens in society emerging from single-party dictatorship? There's always a proliferation of political parties. What happened in Eastern Europe? You saw so many political parties emerge. In Poland, one time, a ballot paper was a booklet. Then after that, the parties begin to coalesce together and then form more coherent movements. This is what happened in this country, the early times of multi-party democracy. We left Ford Kenya, we formed NDP. Then we tried to reform CAN, we formed a union, new CAN we called it. We disagreed, we pulled out. We had LDP. We went and formed the NAC as a coalition, but LDP survived.
You have 10 seconds to go, Honorable Odinga. Why do you change parties so often? Do you believe in parties?
I have not changed parties, this is what I'm trying to say. LDP just changed the name into ODM. It is still the same party. We did not change the party as such. The ODM has remained up to now. What we've done, we have reimagined the ODM Kenya, which had changed its name to Wiper. And then for the Kenya, we have formed now a coalition that is called CORD. We have a very clear agenda for change and reform. Ideology, social democracy. And we are saying that we want to transform this country. So we have a very clear ideology, and that is what I've stood for right through.
What is the ideology?
Social democracy. This is my political ideology. And that is right from the days of Ford, then Ford Kenya, then NDP. It has never changed. It is the name that has changed. But the principles and the ideologies that I stand for have remained very consistent. So I'm very firm to what I want for this country.
Thank you, Honorable Mutu.
Well, the idea behind the political parties is to implement, operationalize Articles 91 and 92. The concept of the Constitution, 91 and 92, which anchors political parties in the Constitution, is to assist parties in Kenya to become internally democratic and parties that are founded on ideology. Actually, mobilization along ethnic lines is forbidden. It's unconstitutional in terms of Article 91. So that is what we subscribe for, and the challenge is in implementing Article 91 and the Political Parties Act. But that katika bunge hili unalogombea kwa Spika.
Thank you very much. And in preparing for the next session, which is just about to begin.
Kuna bunge lenyewe, kuna serikali ambayo inaongoza Mama Samia, kuna mahakama. Sasa ukiwa Spika wa bunge hili, utashirikianaje na mihimili miwili ambayo imebaki? Na hasa muhimili wa serikali.
I don't know whether I can mention the names. I just caught. When a society goes for then there is a problem. Now, when somebody started a team of 5, and today 4 are now opposing, and you are alone, is there social democracy in that system? You know, there are some things that are theoretical, but practically we can see this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that is for party leaders to take that question. I want to come to the final question, which is a security question. Migingo, the island of Migingo, all of you have 30 seconds just to quickly say, is it in Kenya or not? And if it is, what would you as president do to assure the people of Migingo that they are part of Kenya? Leader, 30 seconds.
Just repeat the question, please.
Swali la mwisho la tatu.
Yeah.
Is it Kenya? Is it part of Kenya?
Swali la tatu.
Well, there is a problem. We just read the newspaper and we see governments fighting over it. I think the experts can really give us the clear demarcations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Professor Kiapi.
On Lake Victoria, really we must get proper facts, because otherwise you can polarize regional politics for nothing.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kenyatta. Migingo.
Migingo is in Kenya. However, the truth of the matter is that there exist disputes as a result of not having clear maps that have been registered at the UN. So I think what needs to be done is for all our borders, with our neighbors, to embark on an exercise that ensures that we demarcate all our borders and get these fully registered. I don't think it's a subject to war at. I think, and I do believe, through negotiation and discussion with our neighbors, that issue can be resolved. But in the longer term, I think what needs to be done is to ensure that all our boundaries are properly marked out and registered so as to prevent future conflict over boundaries.
Thank you. Honorable Kenneth.
Any demarcated part of our country must be safeguarded. Not a single inch. Despite the fact that we must practice good neighborhoodness with our countries, not a single inch of Kenya should be inched out to any person. Not any person should take a piece of our part. And I'll be very clear on that. As long as it's demarcated, we must fight for it. We must keep it in our country.
Thank you very much. Honorable Mudavadi.
Migingo is in Kenya. And all we need to do is to make sure that the instruments that deal with our external boundaries are properly registered both within the United Nations system and equally within the African Union system, because that is where the element of confusion arises. But the fact of the matter is that Migingo is in Kenya, we must keep it in Kenya, and we must use diplomacy to convince our neighbors that there is no benefit whatsoever in trying to tamper with Migingo.
Thank you very much. Honorable Karua.
Migingo is in Kenya, and the joint survey that was conducted between Uganda and Kenya firmly found that Migingo was within our boundaries. What is not clear is why the current executive, of which we have 4 members here, has not moved to settle the issue. And settling the issue doesn't mean going to war. There are many diplomatic ways of settling the issue through international law, because we must respect the maps and the boundaries. So it is a letdown that the current executive has not claimed Migingo. As president, I would not let such a matter stay for such a long time. It needs to be resolved instant.
Thank you. And there's a charge that Honorable Odinga should address as Prime Minister. Why have you done nothing about the Migingo issue?
Well, Migingo, as the others have said, is in Kenya. We did actually discuss with the Ugandan government and set up a joint surveying team consisting of experts from Uganda and Kenya. That survey work has not been completed because of certain technical issues from the other side. Uganda is a friendly neighbor, and it's actually inconceivable that two countries could go to war over a piece of rock on the lake. We are trying to resolve this matter peacefully with Uganda, because we are now trying to move towards the East African Federation. So we don't want the issue of Migingo to mar the relationship between Kenya and Uganda.
And finally, the final say on the Migingo issue tonight goes to Paul Mwite.
I think it is unacceptable that we should be forced as a country to be negotiating about Migingo when Uganda, a friendly country, is actually occupying. And they occupied recently. It used to be occupied by Kenyans. And they are now being given orders by police officers, army officers from Uganda. I certainly would deploy the Navy. Uganda fortunately doesn't have a Navy. I'll take it there. Then we negotiate. After I've told the Ugandans who occupied wrongfully to go back, then the survey work can continue. And it is not just Migingo. We need also to resolve the issue of Elemi Triangle. We've got African Union, we've got the United Nations. Let us make our boundaries secure and then have our army to secure. Let's make every Kenyan within our boundaries secure. It is unacceptable that people can come from outside, go to Turkana, kill people, not once, twice, or three times. We must respect the life of every Kenyan within our boundaries.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mwite. Indeed, that will be the final comment of part one of this presidential debate, coming to you live from the Brookhouse School here in Nairobi. And my colleague is here. Julie will be taking you through part two of the debate.
I certainly will. 1.5 hours already gone, and another 1.5 hours or so to go. We will be coming back with your questions now. Thousands of questions came in. We collected them, we broke them down into thematic areas, and they will be presented to you. 3 questions presented to you tonight, and each of you will have an equal chance to address the public on the issues that are raised. What are your commitments to this country? How will you deliver? All that coming up on the way. Stay with the Kenya Presidential Debates 2030. Thank you. Welcome back to the Kenya Presidential Debates, and time now for part 2. This is going to move quite fast. I hope the candidates are all ready. We're taking questions from members of the public who are with us tonight, and we start this session with a question from a gentleman based in Tana Delta area. Let's have Bwana Godana. Thank you so much. Go ahead with your question. Start again, please.
My name is Isabel Godana Dara. I'm from Tana Delta District. I'm asking this question on behalf of my fellow Kenyans. The problem of insecurity of late we have observed a lot of women, a lot of children losing their lives because of insecurity. What are your future plans to curb this issue of insecurity in Kenya?
Thank you so much to each of the candidates. It's clear that both the domestic issues and external forces as well have contributed greatly to an increase in insecurity in Kenya, along our borders and within the country as well. What does your administration pledge to do for each and every Kenyan, irrespective of locality, social status, age? What is your commitment to this country? I'm going to start in the middle with Peter Kenneth.
Thank you, Julie. As your Commander-in-Chief, security will not be negotiable. It has to be absolute. Both internally and externally, we have any threats. I've said in my plan, I will invest in security. I grew up in this Nairobi when at that time every police station around all cities had 20 police cars. 2 were reserved, 18 were on patrol, and they had to do 200 kilometers a night. Sadly today, with the population 15 times more, police stations have 2 police cars and have no fuel. I want first to undertake reforms within the police sector so that we can clear the few bad elements that are there and retrain the good elements. I realize that we have a housing shortage of our police officers to the tune of 27,000 houses. We have a shortage of 3,000 vehicles. Yet even the vehicles they have, they cannot undertake any patrols. It is a scandal, Julie, that our police officers can be killed in the manner they were killed in Baragoi by a better equipped cattle lustras. It is not acceptable. I will be hard on it. I will invest on security. The events in Tana River should never happen in a modern country. And not just Tana River. Not just Tana River. We need to equip our police. We need to empower them. At the moment, they are trying to do some job, but they can't do it without equipment. They can't do it without investments.
Fantastic. Peter, how will you finance this?
First of all, we have invested more in our armed forces than our police. Let me tell you, Julie, 10 years ago, our current expenses were 160 billion. Today, our revenue is 800 billion. Our recurrent expenses are 850 billion. We can't survive that way as a country. We need to cut down. We need to reduce our expenses. We need to make a savings from our recurrent expenses.
Your time is up, but I'm going to give you 10, 20 seconds, actually. Tell us where will you cut back?
I am going to cut our recurrent expenses with unnecessary expenses in our budget so that I can direct traveling, motor vehicle maintenance, and all the retreats and conferences that are taking up. I can assure you, having looked at our recurrent expenses, Julie, we can save between 150 to 180 billion of the current recurrent expenses.
Thank you. Let me come to Honorable Musalia Mudavadi now with the same question.
Yes, first I would like to address Mr. Godana because he raised a very specific issue about Tana River. I was in Tana River area, Delta, early last week, and I want to state that they have a unique problem. Part of the problem is the economic situation and the communities that live there. One will have to have a multifaceted approach to this. You must create an environment where the communities are talking to each other and being able to resolve some of the issues without seeking violence. The other is a resource-based dilemma. We need to work on Tana River and the unique areas like Tana River in this country by making sure we can provide the basic issues, water, and be able to give them some of the very, very critical issues that they need so that they can avoid the conflict that they're going through. There was a commission that was put in place which is supposed to report on the causes of violence there. Up to this day, that report is not there.
Do you feel much of the crime in this country is due to the struggle over resources?
Yes. The Tana River area is a unique area. It's largely a resource-based conflict. Over and above that, then the politicians capitalize on it to inflame the situation. Now, the second aspect of it, because that is Tana River and some of the unique areas like Tana River, but in the long run, we must invest appropriately in our security agencies. It's not just about having numbers, but they must be better trained, better equipped, and this can be done by prioritizing issues of security, so that when we do allocate resources, we allocate them to the priority areas.
You have 20 seconds. Can you give Kenyan specifics when you say better training, better equipped? What are you pledging to the nation?
Communication equipment, it has to be there. The mobility of the police must be there, and then the training to be able to detect crime and get sensitivities of these issues before they occur. We must learn to create a situation where they can prevent. And to get the resources, I can tell you, if we prioritize our programs and our projects, because there are some projects that we have in our budget, but they will take a long time to consummate, but we can rationalize our resources.
Your time is up, and let me come to Martha now on the same issue. Martha, security critical, what would you do?
I would invest not just in security, but in the root causes. One of the root causes is poverty and underdevelopment. We need good communication in the Tana Delta, both the roads and other means of communication, and this deters even pursuit of criminals when they strike, and the ability to detect. It's generally an area like no other. And it's very, very vast. I would invest in technology. There is technology that can help police or security agencies to police such areas without having to have a policeman at every corner. And I dare say that also investing in the welfare, that is the salaries and work environment of the police officers to raise their morale. Also investing in the community by way of campaigning so that they become partners with the police. It is not possible to have a secure environment if the citizens are not involved. But I've said about equipping hardware and software, that is technology.
Let's talk about that technology. What does it entail? What exactly is it?
I am imagining that they should be able to use satellite, because that's the only way you can manage very vast areas. Baragoi would not have happened if we were using satellite. The police would have been able to scan the area before going there. Tana River would be easy to police. And I will make sure that I make sufficient investment to secure not just Tana River, but every citizen, that man, woman, and child, as they go about their daily business, they deserve security.
How would you finance this? How would you finance your security plans?
I would begin with the exact budget that there is for security, cut wasteful spending fast, make sure that the budget that is there is efficiently used. This is what I did with the water sector reforms. I didn't look for more money fast. I first made sure that we efficiently used that money. And within 3 years, I brought down the cost of boreholes from 6 million to 1.5 million. It is possible.
I have to stop you there, but we'll come back to that issue of irresponsible or inefficient use of funds in our ministries. Honorable Raila Odinga.
Security has got two aspects, external and internal. First, we must make sure that we have secure borders, because we have got insecurity which comes as a result of small arms that come across the border because of the conflict in our borders. Here, our armed forces are equal to the task, and I want to congratulate our armed forces in front of Kenya tonight for the splendid job that they have done in Somalia in trying to secure our border with Somalia. Internally, we need to continue with police reforms. We must reform our police so that the policing is efficient. The reforms which have been started need to be continued and completed so that we have a police that is more disciplined, better remunerated, better equipped, that can then discharge their responsibilities effectively.
Let me ask this, Bwana PM, before you move on. As Prime Minister, what has happened in the Tana Delta, what we've seen in Baragoi, and many other parts of the country have happened under your watch. What's your comment on that?
You see, there are certain historical issues that we also need to address. The issue of the kwenye hoja kwamba bunge kwa sababu lina wabunge wengi wa chama cha CCM linaweza likamezwa na upande wa serikali, huo uwezekano haupo kwa sababu serikali haliwezi kulimeza bunge na wala bunge haliwezi kumezwa na serikali, kwa sababu katiba yetu imeweka majukumu tofauti. Serikali kazi yake ni utendaji, bunge ni kazi yake kuisimamia serikali kuhakikisha kutenda kwake inaleta maendeleo kwa wananchi au hapana. Na ndio maana mwenyekiti wetu wakati anafungua bunge hili ameeleza namna ambavyo maendeleo yanapelekwa nchi nzima kwenye majimbo yote. Kwa hivyo unapopeleka hayo maendeleo huko kwa wananchi, sisi tukiwa hapa na wananchi watapata fursa katika wiki hizi tatu za bunge hili.
I'm going to come back to you because I think it would be great to have you give a comment to Godana, who is here today and has suffered at the hands of the insecurity on the government response and why perhaps it has failed to quell the issue. But let me come to Paul Mwite now. Paul, what's your stand on the issues of both domestic and regional security?
Wananchi wa Mbeya mjini watasikia changamoto zao zikisemewa humu bungeni. Kwa hiyo uwezekano wa bunge kushindwa kufanya kazi yake kwa sababu pengine wabunge wengi ni wa Chama cha Mapinduzi haupo, kwa sababu wananchi waliwachagua hawa wabunge sio kwa ujumla wao. Kila mbunge alichaguliwa kwenye jimbo lake kwa uwezo wake wa kuongoza wananchi ambao walimpa ridhaa hiyo.
So you'd be using a tough,
I think a message needs to get across. Because if it doesn't, the communities next door would do it. Because that will give us time to invest in the police, the resources that my colleagues are talking about here, to retrain them, to vet them, and allow those who need to go home to go home. And finally, it will give us time to address the root causes of it all, which is poverty. You need to come up with economic policies that are going to open up the country and give opportunities to every Kenyan wherever they are. That is long term. So immediate is a message.
Pamoja na kwamba serikali yetu inaongozwa na mihimili mitatu
ikiwepo bunge. Stern hand, a firm hand. Let me come to Mohammed first and then I'll come through to Professor.
Jambo baya linakuja inapotokea muhimili mmoja kuingilia kwenye muhimili mwingine.
Our political party, Alliance for Real Change, guiding principle is only service to humanity. In Kenya we have the best intelligence.
Umejipangaje kuweza kuiondoa sintofahamu kwa Watanzania ya kulinda heshima na hadhi ya bunge kuweza kujisimamia?
They can tell you, and in the papers you saw and everybody read, that anybody, those who caused a problem and commotion and still causing in Tana River were export, they were moved to the place. So when security officers cannot do their work because of poor governance, then the only solution is they should be uprooted and you get a clean team. The other thing is, I asked so many Kenyans, why is this problem recurring? And it is only in Kenya where 80% are Christians and 20% others. But you walk for 2 minutes and you see a board, Mganga.
So I'm going to stop you there. I'm going to stop you there and ask you to address the question, which was, what would your government do?
They say the problem in Tana River will continue because some of these leaders are devil worshippers.
So what would your government do to resolve the situation?
The only thing is we implement the constitution. Let every Kenyan actually officer, let every Kenyan employee, anybody employed in Kenya to serve, it should be given the mandate to fulfill the obligation. We are very innocent Kenyans. When we hear the alarm of an ambulance, we keep aside. Maybe it is not a sick person taken to the hospital, and it is rolls kilos of bank.
Okay, I still have to do.
What I will do is to put the right thing. We will call a spade and not a big spoon. Everything, the judiciary has its function, the executive has its function, the Kenyan constitution is very clear. There's nothing like this or this is to happen. No. We need to put everything in place.
Implementation, you were saying. Professor,
Julie, what happened in Tana River was totally unacceptable because it went on for almost 3 months and the government seemed almost unable to contain it. If I was president today and there is any problem anywhere in Kenya, I will ask the cabinet secretary in charge or myself to report to that place and stay there until the problem is solved. Before you address the long-term issues like unemployment, economic disparities, conflicts of resources, you've got to contain the problem immediately. You've got to save lives. We have got also to involve people. Look at the case in Nairobi where there is a bomb blast. Everybody rushes there. Nobody tells Kenyans that that is already a cause of insecurity to them and their lives. We've got to involve people and create major awareness. So the ministry in charge of security must be much more active than it is now. We must overhaul immigration department because there's too much corruption there. And a lot of illegal people are getting into Kenya and getting out. They're even selling our passports. We've got to stop these things. And corruption is the single most important cause of insecurity in Kenya. If we stop it and become serious, we can stop it.
How will you stop it? You know, a lot of these cartels are entrenched, and if what we've heard from...
I think number one, I will require all the security agencies to be clearly coordinated and a line of command established.
with one person who will be able to call the shots, because right now they're going in different directions. 2, we will make sure that we give them the tools and capacity. 3, the people themselves are the first line of defense. Let's engage the people in security matters.
Okay, let me come now to Uhuru Kenyatta. And the Jubilee Manifesto goes into quite a bit of detail. Talks about, for instance, 15,000 new recruits a year. Tell us more about your plans, and are they too ambitious, perhaps?
I think first and foremost, let me address the Ismail himself and say that indeed the happenings in Tanzania are most unfortunate. And let me say this, in my government, a crime will be a crime. No longer will one be able to hide behind their community. If it is murder, it is not a community. If you are a cattle rustler, you are a cattle rustler. And you will be treated by the law in exactly that way. As I say that, we need to also recognize that the problem in Tanzania also goes a little bit deeper. There are also social aspects that are involved. It is a fight over boundaries, it is a fight over resources. In my government, we will ensure that the pastoral communities in those regions are given adequate access to water for their livestock and adequate also veterinary services for their livestock. We will ensure for our farming communities also in the region that we will expand the irrigation programs that were initiated by this government while I was at the Ministry of Finance and my running mate was in the Ministry of Agriculture. We will seek to expand irrigation in those areas so as to reduce the potential areas of conflict. That said and done, insecurity is not just a problem of Tana River. It's a national problem. We need to be able to address it. I don't think we need to change our pastoral communities per se. I think we can turn our livestock industry into a productive sector. We need to train, to re-educate our pastoral farmers. We need to be able to ensure that we give them improved range management, water supply, so that, in short, they don't have to travel all those great distances. We need to commercialize our livestock farms. That said and done, to also reduce incidences of cattle rustling. I think using modern technology, for example, chipping or implanting chips in our livestock, would go a long way in helping track those animals and track culprits.
Thank you. Your time is up. You've gone into detail on the pastoralist issue, but we will try and go into more on security in just a moment, because I'm going to put another question to each of you. We're speaking of security as we head into an election, and we all know what happened in 2007, 2008. And many questions have come in, the same question actually put in different ways, with Kenyans asking, what will each of you pledge to do to ensure that Kenya is peaceful during and after lakini kwamba shughuli ziendelee wakati mkuu wa mhimili hayupo, hilo kidogo itakuwa mtihani, na mimi kama mgombea sitaki kusema kwamba nikiingia mimi ndio nitabadilisha hilo. Asante sana mheshimiwa mwenyekiti.
Of whipping up ethnic emotions. We have not mobilized along ethnic lines.
Maswali matatu yameisha, ingawa wengi wameniandikia message. Samehe sana Francis Isaac, Bunge wa Iramba Mashariki,
in order to give everybody a chance. For example, in Taita Taveta, that iron which is being mined there, we'll make it a dish that has melting plant.
Kama zilikuja pamoja ungetupa na mimi nafasi hivyo hivyo.
So, and we will accept the results of free and fair elections. And if you are dissatisfied, now that the judiciary is working,
you go to court.
We will go to court. We will not ask young people to take up arms.
Absolutely. Let's go to Raila Odinga.
Well, Judy, you know that Kenyans have now had about 4 multi-party elections. And the past, the violence was actually before the elections. It was only this last time round, 2007.
Sasa wewe unaruhusiwa kukaa kwenye kiti chako ili upige kura.
And we all know what actually happened. We are saying that we don't want a repeat of what happened in 2006 to be repeated again. We have said as CORD that we will accept the results of the elections. If we are defeated, we will accept defeat. And if there are any complaints, we will also go to court.
Thank you. 10 seconds.
What we're saying is that we don't want to mobilize along ethnic lines. That's why we are campaigning on a national platform to unite the people. And we also said, telling the media to help us do this, so that the media also desist from going along the ethnic lines which will polarize the country. Like what happened recently, and I mentioned it before.
Tumepata fursa ya kuwasikia wagombea wetu wote.
This idea of bundling ethnic figures polarizes the country along ethnic lines, and it is not helpful for a national campaign.
Hivi punde tutasambaza karatasi
along ideological lines. We have a clear policy that we want to sell to the people of Kenya, and to judge us on the basis of the program that we're putting before the people.
Thank you so much, Martha. You have 1
minute.
Now Kenya has been spearheading peace for the last 5 years.
Lakini nataka nitoe ufafanuzi ambao aliutoa mgombea namba 6
it is the poor who fight each other. We the political class never fight. They have seen us here laughing with each other, greeting each other. So they should not allow us to mislead them with talk of ethnicity. But we must show us leadership now. We must be able to abide by the law, accept the results of the election, and if one is unhappy, you go to court. Even 207, I said anybody agreed should have gone to court. We've been using the same courts even before the reforms as politicians. So we should never ever tell Kenyans to rise up against each other. We should use the institutions of the judiciary to resolve
wabunge waliopo leo humu ndani.
Thank you.
Ni 372.
Name speaks for itself, the Amani Coalition.
Kwa hiyo tutapiga kura wabunge 372.
They look like a simple thing in a church.
Nafurahi kumuona na Jerry Sla leo amekuja.
Making sure that at every forum as we discuss issues, the issue of having to work together and conduct ourselves peacefully has been an underlying theme in all our movement. Secondly, we have all signed the code kama ilivyo ada, ndugu zangu, tuna uzoefu wa kupiga kura sana. So that whatever we are doing, whatever we are asking our supporters to do, whatever our party members are doing, they must live up to the letter of that code of conduct that they signed. Because it's a requirement in law, it's a legal requirement, we must live up to it. Finally, we must be prepared to accept the results. We all want to win, but there shall be only one winner at the end of the day. So we must be prepared to say that we concede where somebody else has taken the day. And that is the principle that we should carry along in order to be able to foster peace and to be able to make sure that there is tranquility even after the election.
Majina yako 9.
When I launched my campaign on the 4th of November, I said my campaign will be based on issues. And I've never campaigned without preaching the peace message. Because there will be Kenya after 4th of March. And we must never allow ourselves to go to the events of 2008. Kenya is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. We must never try to destroy it.
Na mtazamaji wa Bunge TV, mara baada ya kukamilika kwa zoezi la wagombea wale 9 kunadi sera zao kwa waheshimiwa wa bunge kwa kuomba kura na hatimaye nao kuulizwa maswali na wabunge hawa. Sasa zoezi linalopata sasa ni lile lenyewe sasa la upigaji wa kura waheshimiwa bunge ambao wa mwenyekiti wa uchaguzi huu Mheshimiwa William Lukuvi wako 372 kwa leo. Sasa watapoka karatasi moja baada ya mwingine kupiga kura kuweka alama ya vema kwa yule mbunge, kwa yule mgombea anayemtaka. Kumbuka wako 9 ambao ndio waliojinadi hapa mbele ya waheshimiwa bunge. Wa kwanza kujinadi mbele yao alikuwa ni Abdullah Mohamed Said kutoka chama cha NRA. Alikadhalika pia alijinadi hapa mwandishi Ivan Jackson Maganza kutoka chama cha TLP. Vile David Daudi Mwejulele kutoka chama cha CCK naye alijinadi hapa kwa kuomba kura kwa waheshimiwa wa bunge ili wampe ridhaa ya kuwa spika mpya wa bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Lakini pia George Gabriel Busungu kutoka chama cha ADA Tadea naye alipata nafasi ya kutoa sera zake, kueleza nini atakifanya endapo atachaguliwa kuwa Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Lakini vile Kunje Gombale Mwiru naye alipata nafasi, huyu kutoka chama cha SAU, kueleza yale ambayo atayafanya endapo atakuwa kiongozi wa muhimili huu mkubwa kabisa wa kutunga sheria. Lakini vile Maimuna Saidi Kasim kutoka chama cha ADC na alijinadi mbele ya bunge hapa kwamba ridhaa hiyo ya kuchaguliwa kwa Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, ambaye alifuatiwa na ndugu Ndonge Saidi Ndonge kutoka AAFP chama hiki, na aliomba ridhaa ya kuomba kuchaguliwa kwa Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Lakini Saadun Abdurrahman Hatib kutoka chama cha DP naye pia alipata nafasi ya kueleza sera zake mbele ya wabunge hawa ili washawishike kumpa kura ya ndio ili awe Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Lakini wa mwisho ambaye amemaliza hivi punde tu ni Mheshimiwa Daktari Tulia Ackson, naye ameeleza yake hivi punde kuomba ridhaa ya kuchaguliwa kwa Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Kumbuka awali alikuwa ni naibu Spika, na kwa mujibu wa taarifa ambayo ilitolewa mapema leo asubuhi na Binenelwa Mwihambi, katibu wa Bunge, ni kwamba naye ameandika barua ya kujiuzulu nafasi hiyo ya naibu Spika, na hii mara baada ya chama chake kupitisha kuwa mgombea wa kiti cha Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Zoezi linaendelea kwa sasa ni hilo la waheshimiwa bunge kugaiwa karatasi mbalimbali ambazo zitakuwa na majina ya wale wanaogombea kiti cha Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, ili waweke alama ya vema kwa yule ambaye atamwona amefaa na kueleza kwa sera zake alizozieleza muda mchache uliopita, ampe nafasi ya kuwa Spika wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Haya yote tunayafanya hapa, tumekutana hapa katika zoezi la uchaguzi ni baada ya Mheshimiwa Job Ndugai kujiuzulu katika nafasi hiyo ya uspika mnamo Januari 6 mwaka 2022. Niko na mwenzangu Shiluna Saidi, mimi ni Chungarunza. Tuko hapa kukuletea matangazo haya tangu pale asubuhi na hadi hapo atakapopatikana Spika mpya wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, na baadaye vikao vingine viendelee. Shiluna, ulikuwa ukifuatilia kwa karibu kuhusiana na hasa mchakato mzima wa wagombea hawa 9 kujinadi wako wakati kuuliza maswali, kuna watu waliocheka, wengine kama haya, lakini yote kwa yote ni wao kujitangaza na hatimaye kupigiwa kura na kutoa kitiki chao.
Na Mchungarunza na mtazamaji wa Bunge TV, kama ulivyosema Chunga, kwa kweli wagombea hawa 9 wote wamefika mbele ya bunge na kunadi sera zao kwa wabunge hawa wa Bunge la Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania ili kuomba nafasi hiyo ya uspika na kuweza kusimamia bunge hili ama muhimili wa bunge hili. Na utaratibu wa kupiga kura kama unavyoendelea, tayari wabunge wameanza kupiga kura na kuwekwa katika masanduku hayo, na baadaye atatajwa mshindi wa nafasi ama kiti hichi cha spika. Na kumbuka tu kwamba nikikurudisha nyuma mtazamaji, tukio hilo linatokea kufuatia spika wa bunge la Tanzania Job Ndugai kujiuzulu wadhifa wake hapo tarehe 6 Januari mwaka huu baada ya kuongoza tangu Novemba 17, 2015. Lakini katiba ya Tanzania imeweka bayana kupitia ibara yake ya 84 kuwa hakutakuwa na shughuli yoyote ya bunge itakayofanyika kabla kuwa na spika. Ndio maana uchaguzi huu unafanyika. Na ofisi ya bunge, kama tulivyomsikia katibu wa bunge Nenelwa Mwihambi, alisema Januari 7 ofisi yake ilitoa taarifa kwa vyama vya siasa vyenye usajili wa kudumu kutoa wagombea ama wagombea kuchukua fomu na kujazwa, na baada ya tangazo hilo vyama vya siasa vikaanza mchakato wa kutangaza kwa wanachama wa chama hicho wanao uwezo wa kugombea nafasi hiyo kuchukua fomu pale Januari 10 kwa chama. Upande wa Chama cha Mapinduzi CCM ulitangaza nafasi hiyo ambapo zaidi ya wanachama 69 walijitokeza, ama naweza nikasema 70 kwa ujumla walichukua fomu za kugombea. Miongoni mwao ni Dr. Tulia Ackson, mwanasheria mkuu wa serikali wa zamani Andrew Chenge, pia aliyewahi amechukua fomu hiyo, aliyewahi kuwa waziri wa madini Stephen Masele, Musa Azan Zungu, Dr. Titus Kamani, Engineer Stella Manyanya pia ni miongoni mwa waliochukua fomu, Josephat Malima, Joseph Msukuma, wakili Emmanuel Paul Mungare, wakili Nduruma Majembe, Professor Norman Engineer Abdulaziz Jahadi, George Francis Nangale, mbunge wa zamani wa bunge la EALA Ramadhin Rashid, wanafunzi pia chunga na mtazamaji walishiriki kuchukua fomu. Wanafunzi wa chuo kikuu cha Dar es Salaam, wakili Faraji Rushagama, Sofia Simba, mwenyekiti wa zamani wa UWT aliyewahi kuwa pia katibu wa bunge Dr. Thomas Kashilila, naye pia ni miongoni mwa wanachama hao 70 waliochukua fomu za kugombea nafasi hiyo. Lakini chama hicho kina mchakato wake. Kwa huo mchakato kwa upande wa chama cha CCM ulifanyika kuchuja majina hayo. Na mtazamaji, tumsikilize mwenyekiti wa uchaguzi.
Day secondary schools. Some schools have everything, others have no classrooms, enough classrooms, or even laboratories. If we invest in the physical infrastructure and teachers, the quality will begin to go up. Let's thank President Kibaki for bringing kids into the education system in terms of access.
Thank you. Let me come to you, Uhuru Kenyatta, on this issue.
Our manifesto on this is very clear. And I do appreciate the problem that has been mentioned, because it is a problem that also contributes to a lot of the social ills that we see. And that's why in our manifesto, we have made it very clear that we want to move to a situation where no child under the age of 18 is out of either school or some training institution. And we have made it clear that we would want to continue adding classrooms, increasing the number of teachers, as well as ensuring that we have one technical school in at least every ward in our country, to ensure that those who do not make it into secondary school at least are able to be given some form of training that they could use to make a livelihood for themselves. So the basic fact is that this would not only help us ensure that kids remain in school, but it would also go a long way towards creating or removing the breeding ground that has been there for criminal gangs using these young men and women.
School feeding programs, milk for children in primary school, talk about the tablet, the solar power tablet. How will you finance all this?
Like I stated severally, and I've done in the past, I do believe there is a lot of waste in government today. We moved, when I was Minister of Finance, for example, to ensure that all the fuel guzzlers that were there were removed. These are monies that we could save to put into more serious issues like feeding our children in school, like ensuring no child is out of school before the age of 18. For example, what we are moving towards right now is a Ministry of Foreign Affairs that is better staffed and equipped with professionals. There is no reason for every single conference to be attended by a minister from another department. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, properly staffed, properly equipped, can handle that on behalf of government. There's major savings to be made there from all the unnecessary travel that is made out of this country severally, and turn this and put it into more useful uses that benefit the people of this country.
Peter, let me come to you on this, and you've already heard Professor Oleksiapia and Uhuru Kenyatta. What are you going to do that's different and that is better than what they're offering the Kenyan citizens?
Well, Julie, first, we must look at quality of our education. Hello. It is one thing to give quantity education, is another to guarantee quality education. Because what you are looking from our kids is the outcome. What do they get out of school? That's why I'm saying we must carry out reforms, right from ECD. Going all the way to primary. looking for a reform process that has a continuous education, so that you don't just leave us standard 8 because you have nowhere to go. The statistics are quite odd. 75% of primary kids make it to secondary school. 32 only make it to campus. So at primary, you drop out 25. At secondary, you drop another 68. So you must invest in education. I do not entirely agree that we have a shortfall in teachers. We actually have poor distribution of teachers. You have areas that have more teachers, whereas you have other areas that have not teachers.
How would you distribute, Peter? Where would you
have to be fair, you have to have equality, you have to enforce transfers of teachers to schools that do not have teachers. Something that probably my brother professor should have implemented very well when he was there. But much more important than that, much more important than that.
You still have a minute, Peter. You still have a minute. I'm going to allow you 20 seconds because he's been in the ministry and feels he needs to respond to this,
Professor. The President himself ordered us, and we did all the rationalization that could be done. And there is now no rationalization you can do to bridge a gap of 100,000 teachers. It's a shortage which is known. It is known in government, it is known in treasury, and there is nothing my brother can do to bridge that. He must just hire teachers.
And from the words of a teacher?
The former permanent secretary, I look for 7 billion to pay teachers. How do you want to pay, as proposed by the Salaries Commission, 14.73 billion to 3,650 officers, and you pay 7 billion to 500,000 teachers? Is that fair?
A very important question raised, and I think we'll come back to that with each and every person to speak about salaries and allowances and what we've been seeing, the trends we've been seeing in government. So, Peter, Professor says we have a huge shortfall of 100,000.
He has not addressed the issue of distribution of teachers. I am making it absolutely clear that there are some areas in our country that have more teachers, whilst there are some areas that are lacking teachers. The distribution has never been effected efficiently. But what I'm saying in our reform plan, we must invest from ECD, continuation from 38. We have proposed a national polytechnic for each county. Because we'd like to see fourth formers who leave going to polytechnics. Because we converted our polytechnics into university colleges and forgot that there is a high rate of dropouts. Two, we must agree to invest in our education system. In the last 5 years, the government has borrowed more than had been borrowed in the last 26 years in terms of total aggregate. Our debt was 700 billion. In 2007, it's now 1.8 trillion. We have not invested in real education using the money that we have borrowed.
Let me come to you, Musalia, and you can see the debate happening here. Is there, in your opinion, a shortfall in the number of teachers? Is it about redistribution? And also the issue has been raised of the huge gap in pay, and how can you morally support what's been going on within our government?
I must say that one of the things that is now a constitutional issue is the fact that basic education is up to the fourth form level. And really, if we have to implement the constitution and live up to it, we must start as a nation preparing ourselves to provide support so that our young children can get to fourth form level through the public support. That is a must. We must do that.
That is a commitment your government is making, to take them right through till
now. One of the things that we must look at is that the whole idea of financing our social sector.
Unapenda nani akuwakilishe katika jambo hili? Chagua yeyote unayemtaka.
Remember that it is comprehensive, it is holistic. We must manage the economy well in order to be able to provide the resources that are going to go here. For instance, there are issues that are pending about privatization in this country. We can raise a lot of resources by carrying through the whole process of privatization in this country and be able to assign those resources to areas like education.
Which institutions are you talking about?
Kama unaona mwenyekiti wako anakutosha, mimi niko kukuwakilisha.
Out of Mombasa. It can be done. We can still look at even the privatization of the airports authority. All these are issues that can be done. They can be managed efficiently, they can be turned around, and they can generate a lot of revenue that can go into the institutions like the health and education. And to me, these are the areas that I would focus on in order to start raising resources that I can divert to be able to cater for the education of our children.
Let's be a bit more specific with education. And when you say investment, there's only a few seconds left. But give us some specifics of what pledges you are making to this nation.
At this point in time, I'm saying that the Amani government is going to provide free and compulsory education up to 4th form level. That allows us to have our children in school normal. Otherwise, if we continue to guillotine them at standard 8, we are putting them, condemning them to child labor, which is again another breach of the law. So we must keep them there longer, and after that, to be able to invest in our polytechnics to allow them to gain skills for those who do not get to the university.
Martha, over
I'll
to you.
I'll begin by saying that if it were not for education, I would not be here today seeking the trust of Kenyans. I value education, and I am glad that my colleague has now joined.
Asante sana, tutamtafuta Umi mwalimu. Unaenda kwenda. Atakuja tu. Tafuteni Umi mwalimu amependekezwa.
Accessible university education.
Atafutwe Umi mwalimu amwakilishe.
Loans in public universities for the 3 basics. That is tuition,
Mwiteni Umi mwalimu huko.
and meals, so as to equalize the children
Mwite Umi mwalimu hapa aje afanye kazi hapa.
To get the same education as the children
of the rich. I
also believe that infrastructure in our schools must be built by the government. If we say compulsory education and we don't take over infrastructure, then the situation that has been there with the free primary education, with kids studying outside, will continue. And I have a practical example of turning every public primary school into a day secondary school. In my constituency, using CDF, we were able to increase the number of secondary schools from 16 to 37. Out of the 42 public primary schools, that way you are able to bring in more students. I can't say we have attained the level, but with compulsory pre-primary, including early childhood and secondary education, you will retain as many. I want to acknowledge that we would have to have more teachers.
And where do the funds come from?
Where do we get funds? I will not talk of privatization because that's a one-off. It's not sustainable. I am saying start with the same money you have, increase efficiency. Treasury's own admission is that we lose 1/3 of our budget through looting or theft of public funds and misuse. So if we start looking at where we are misapplying money and then widen the tax base, because there's still a lot of people who are not paying taxes, then we would be able to do that.
Honorable Raila Odinga, your government over the past 5 years, and certainly this did start in 2002, has achieved a lot since we first introduced free primary education and have moved on now to do more. So in terms of having more children in school, it's a success, but in terms of quality, there are huge issues. And of course, again, we talked about the transition issues as well. What would you do in this coming administration to change things?
First, we are talking about an inclusive government, Kenya for all. And we must start here by offering equal opportunity for each and every child born in our country. We are talking about manpower development. And this starts here at the nursery and at the primary. First thing we are saying is free education must be really free. Free must be truly free, meaning that there will be no thing like uniforms to be provided to parents, things like writing materials, textbooks and so on. All that will be provided for by the government. Then, we want to ensure that there's higher rate of transition. The transition rate was 66%. Mwite Maimuna Saidi Kasim waje tena. 73% in 2011. This time around to 78%. It's still unacceptable. We want to see a higher rate of transition from primary to secondary. But there's also disparity between girl child and boys. More boys transit than girls. So we want to address the issue of girl child education in this country. For example, this issue of sanitary towels, which I talked about last time round. I've tried to push it this time, this government, but there's been a lot of resistance.
Naomba tafadhali aje Bibi Maimuna tumpe fursa ya pili. Labda kwa sababu alimpenda waziri wa afya anaweza akamteua naibu.
To ensure that girls actually have equal opportunity to transit like boys.
We're talking about sanitary towels, but a provision was made to actually start to give sanitary towels to schools by government. But I also want to introduce the whole issue that has been raised by Dida of the pay and the huge discrepancies between the pay of teachers and, for instance, members of parliament.
Yes, there's a shortage, and I've actually myself mediated in this
Maimuna, tunaomba radhi kidogo.
Shortage of teachers.
Uliyempenda sana ameomba udhuru hapa kwa siku yuko nje kikazi. Lakini kura yako kishakupa bila shaka.
The ratio of the teacher.
Sasa tunao wengi hapa bila shaka. Kama unaamini meza sema, kama unatafuta mtu mwingine wako hapa.
Nashukuru Mheshimiwa Mwenyekiti. Naomba nimchague kaka yangu Mheshimiwa Omar Kigua.
And what I've said, we are going to transform the public sector within the past 100 days to ensure that we have that saving. We'll have then also in terms of revenue every year. The revenue increases by 100 billion. So we will divert about 1/3 of that revenue to primary and secondary education.
Mgombea mwenzake huyo.
Na suti zao zinafanana.
Mgombea mwenzake na alipata kura 18,000 ametuambia hapa, sio? Karibu sana.
Of my learned colleague and the lavish spending of that campaign and most of the campaigns of my colleagues here, except a few, I am just wondering with that lavish spending.
Na mimi namteua mwakilishi wa mwenyekiti, maana mwenyekiti hawezi kuingia huko.
That theft of public funds and abuse is curbed. I have practiced it in my campaign. So
Mheshimiwa Almasi ndio wewe mwakilishi wa mwenyekiti.
Taingia huko. Raila going to do that.
Honorable Raila, I'll allow you to respond to that.
Campaign time is campaign time. And that's why
wewe unaniwakilisha mimi. Hawa wanawakilisha walio watajwa.
Look at the amount of money they used to use campaign. The Romney and the Obama campaign. You raise money from friends because you have to reach the rest of the country. But this is very different once we finish campaign and we sit down to serious business of governance.
Perhaps the question is, in a country of great need, can we afford these lavish campaigns? Peter Kenneth, please.
Prime Minister. He's just admitted here that government has wound up to losing 30 billion shillings per year, which I actually think is much higher than that. What is it did he do as a principal to ensure we do not lose that for 30 years?
Ili mwe mashahidi wa wagombea na bunge hili kwamba matokeo yatakayokuja kwangu mmeshuhudia na mmeyaona vizuri.
I was coming actually to Paul Mwite's education promise with that question, but I will allow the Prime Minister 30 seconds to respond to that and then come to Paul Mwite with that issue and also the education issue. But first, Honorable Raila, you've been asked a question by Peter Kenneth. 30 billion, you say? And what have you done about it?
Friend, actually,
baada ya hapa waheshimiwa wabunge tunairisha kidogo kwa muda wa dakika 20. Tutaingia hapa
and he knows the challenges that come with running a coalition government, particularly a ground coalition government. I have been charged with the responsibility of supervising and coordinating. But there are certain other areas where there's impunity and there's very little that as a principle you can do. And that is known. The former Minister of Finance, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, has just admitted that is this kind of wastage in the finance ministry, but it does not tell us what it did.
Let me come straight to Uhuru. Go ahead. You have admitted there is wastage as well, and what have you been doing about it?
Thank you. I don't run away from
Spika wa Bunge ukiendelea baada ya wagombea 9 ambao wamezungumza kwa dakika 3 na kuulizwa maswali kuhusiana na nia ya wao kuwania nafasi hiyo ya uspika, lakini pia wameeleza mikakati mbalimbali ambayo wataanza nayo katika kutimiza jukumu lao hilo endapo watapata nafasi ya kupewa wagombea ambao wamenadi sera zao, na hivi sasa zoezi zima la kwenda kuhesabu kura litaendelea kwa muda wa kama nusu saa hivi. Ni pamoja na Abdullah Mohamed Saidi akiwakilisha chama cha NRA, lakini pia kuna mhandisi Ivan Jackson akitoka TLP, kuna David Daudi Mwaijolele yeye anatoka chama cha kijamii ama CCK, mwingine ni George Gabriel Busungu anatoka Ada Tadea, lakini Kunje Ngombale Mwiru yeye anatoka SAU, bila kusahau Maimuna Saidi Kasim anatoka ADC, lakini pia kulikuwa na Ndonge Saidi Ndonge anatoka AAFP.
So indeed you're saying you do spend more. I see your hand, Martha. I'm going to come first to Dida and then to yourself,
Katibu anatoka DP pamoja na Dr. Tulia Ackson. Kati ya hao 9, mmoja tu ndio mbunge ambaye ni Dr. Tulia Ackson, wengine wanawakilisha vyama vyao lakini si wakilishi ndani ya bunge. Basi tutaendelea kujuza mengi ambayo yanajiri na tutarejea hapa saa 6:30. Mimi ni Mbozi Katala, endelea kuwa nasi.
In primary schools